across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very good morning to you. Welcome to the show. This is Talk. We are the home of common sense. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. It's coming up to 3 minutes past 10 o'clock, and we've got a rip-roaring show for you today. And whether you're listening on DAB+ radio, on your smart speaker, watching on YouTube, or your connected device, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Don't forget you can go to my YouTube page at any point, pick up anything we've missed on the show. If you have to head out, you know, you've got a life, job, that sort of thing, you can always, got kids on, I don't know, some of them might be on early Christmas holidays, God, from nursery or goodness knows what. You can check out the Julia Hartley-Brewer show on YouTube, and you never have to miss a thing if you hit subscribe. Coming up in this hour, I mean, I saw this story. I thought, this must be made up. No, not made up. Benefits claimants could receive free TV licences. Yeah. Speechless, yeah, under Labour's reforms to the BBC alongside advertising and subscription options. So I haven't got a problem with those two. A government review of the BBC's Royal Charter has found that more than half of poorer households don't keep up with their licence fee payments. No, of course they don't. And the prospect of potential handouts, of course, comes as Keir Starmer faces criticism for failing to get more Britons off benefits and into work, with spending on benefits on course to hit £378 billion by 2029. Who do you think's paying for that? You and me, just so you know. Meanwhile, patients are being told to expect disruption in the next few days as resident doctors, of course you call them junior doctors, begin their 5-day strike in England. It's the 14th walkout by resident doctors in their long-running pay dispute over the last few years, and the 3rd this year, which is weird because Labour came in, paid them off the 29% they were demanding, and thought they'd sorted it all out. Hasn't gone quite as well as they expected. Turns out it's not that easy to deal with basically a commie, a militant medical union. Plus, calls from the Policy Exchange think tank for Britain to have an emergency census after a record influx of 3.9 million people into the UK. All of whom, by the way, highly skilled, highly paid engineers, scientists and doctors. Of course they are. But that was, of course, the Boris wave that came post-Brexit. Not as a result of Brexit. The whole point of Brexit was we could control our borders and decide who came in and who didn't come in. But it turns out, no, Boris Johnson just thought we just literally invite in the entire Indian subcontinent, as far as I can tell. But anyway, we've got the best part of 4 million people here. Not really sure where they are, what they're doing, and goodness knows whether any of them are actually contributing. But we need that census to provide government, local councils and other agencies with up-to-date data so they can understand the impact of population growth. Also, murderers who kill current or former police officers, prison officers or probation officers because of their jobs will likely get whole life sentences. That's according to the Justice Secretary David Lammy, who's broadening the range of whole life orders in the wake of the murder of prison officer Lenny Scott last year. We're going to be talking about that and plenty more besides, including what's going on in one particular prison with Palestine Action hunger strikers after the Your Party MP Zara Sultana. I mean, she's never found a cause that, a questionable cause that she'll not support. She spent the night outside prison demanding that an ambulance was brought for one of the hunger strikers who, due to not eating, needs hospital treatment, she says. I would have thought there was probably an easy solution to that. But hey, I'm no medical expert. Anyway, I want to talk about all of that with you. In particular, I'd love to hear your thoughts because I have a funny feeling you may feel strongly about this. The benefit claimants getting a free TV licence under government plans to reform the BBC finances. What is your reaction to that? I imagine cheering happily, donating yourself to other people's TV licences, really. Love to hear your thoughts. Give us a call, 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk in your message to 87222. Get in touch with us on X at Talk TV. Calls are charged the national rate. Text costs one standard network rate message. But of course, you don't have to limit your calls to that. Anything you want to talk about, we are here to take those calls. Love to get you on air. Delighted to say joining me today, young Claire Pearsall is away on pre-Christmas holes, and valiantly stepping in is Conservative commentator Benedict Spence once again. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for joining us. I understand you've got the latest lurgy doing the rounds.
Yes,
we're just going to sort of...
do you know what? I've been counting how many days I've had lurgy this year. We are into the 50s.
I'm going to go about 360 for me.
Honestly, that whole thing. Do you remember that thing we had? I think it was called lockdown, and everybody was saying, do you know what's going to happen after lockdown is all of the flu and the cold viruses, they're going to mutate, they're going to get worse, and everybody's going to be laid out. Huh, who knew? They were right about that.
Who knew that people were predicting that? Yeah, and then it's actually happened. I mean, genuinely, I've never been so sick as I've been in the last 2 years. I didn't have a single day off sick for 7 years. I'm just not a sickly person, and I'm literally just constantly.
Do you remember?
I do have this thing, by the way. I have a thing right here. It's literally a button in the studio. So you've got, you talk back and things. So the studio can talk to you, and you can talk to them, and put things on site. But I've got a button. It's literally called the cough button. It's actually got cough written on it, and it's so you can go and you can't hear it. So luckily for you, I do have that button, but you may be using it when Benedict's coughing. Also, when he's talking, if he's talking nonsense.
Most likely when he's talking.
I'll just turn him off now.
I wish I had one. I wish I had one for you. This could be great
my
fun.
husband, literally, he's been talking to the engineers for years here, saying, is there a way of creating one of those for me at home?
I time it, though, very specifically for certain words, so that your sentence would almost make sense, but everybody listening at home would be like, but I missed it.
A crucial knot might be missing, but there we are.
I wouldn't censor you, I'd just irritate you.
I mean, as usual. Let's talk about these free TV licences for benefit claimants. This is a government review of the BBC's Royal Charter published yesterday. It said more than half of poorer households don't keep up with their payments for the licence fee. It costs £174.50 a year. But, people on lower incomes should get, free TV licences. This happens in Germany, so it must be OK. I mean, these people are stark staring and saying, I object to people on benefits, outwork benefits, getting like lower council tax and things. I get the whole, if you're blind or you get a 50% discount. TV. Well, fair enough, because you're getting telly, but you're not getting fair enough. And over 75s on pension credit, and those in residential credit. I've got no issue with that, but I just find it quite extraordinary.
Well, the reason why they're doing this is because simply so many people do not pay their TV licences, and they don't have the resources, I think, to actually go and prosecute most of these people. That's ultimately why they're just going. What they're doing is they're saying, well, the crime won't exist anymore, therefore it'll solve a lot of problems.
But then I imagine those people still won't pay their if there was a discounted one, they wouldn't pay it. So if you don't pay it, so if the rest of us just say we're not going to pay our TV licence, will they cancel it then?
I mean, you could try. I'm genuinely serious. If enough
I'm
people
very
just
jealous of the
not
number
to.
of people who do say I don't pay my TV licence. I can't break the law.
Yeah, lots of people do not pay their TV licences, and so ultimately I think what you will see, and we will see this actually with lots of things. Another very good example of this is drug laws, which is that simply after a while they decide, look, there are so many people breaking this particular law, we cannot be bothered to prosecute this many people.
So we don't
have
bother.
So we will change the law so it's not a crime anymore.
But crucially, again, if you just don't bother, then people carry on doing it, and then it is really, really bizarre.
Well, it is the sign of a state that has simply lost the energy, it's lost the drive, and therefore it is starting, it's starting to lose its legitimacy, because it's the same with, for instance, defending the armed forces of the border. They just go, well, we can't be bothered to do that, at which point you have to say, so what's the point of the state?
Yeah, exactly. You're not doing the stuff we care about. But again, also, people's just have their taxes going up. We've got the cost of living going up for everybody. But let's help people on benefits. We've got benefits explosion. The government, they've got all these different reviews, whether it's Alan Milburn or anyone else, doing a review of, why are all these people who, way higher percentage of young people in particular, claiming on the sick, as opposed to in other countries. Do you really need to have someone do a review? I mean, literally, you could call round job centres and speak to some people honestly and say what's going on and talk to them. I mean, I'm sorry, this is not beyond the wit of man, this. There are plenty of people you could get people into a room, get your focus group in, and everyone will tell you, what's your family member who's on the sick doing? I mean, this is the thing. If there was something like, we are rebuilding this nation, we are going to be investing in infrastructure, we are getting everyone, it's all hands on deck, or we're going to be investing, I really think we should be spending probably double what we're spending right now on defences, because I think that, and as the rest of Europe should be doing as well, not because I'm a warmonger, because I want to avoid war. If we're going to be getting all hands on deck in terms of waiting lists, we're going to pay doctors double, and they're going to be doing double shifts, and we're going to get all those operations done, and I think people would be fully behind it. I think people go, I don't want my taxes to go up, but they would understand it and get it. It's the fact that people's taxes are going up and more people are claiming benefits. Sorry, that's not going to fly.
Benefits, migrants, all sorts of things that people fundamentally keep saying, I don't want to pay for, and being told, well, buddy, lucky you get to anyway. You don't actually get a say.
And every time a government, whichever Hugh says they're going to deal with it, the situation gets worse.
But of course, there is this obviously this impending problem, which is the changing demographics, which is that there are now that many people on out-of-work benefits that the average Labour MP sits there and goes, well, if I don't give them what they want, if I don't financially dope these people, basically, they might come out and vote against me.
Gordon Brown started this with, working family tax credits and all this. Basically, if you put everybody on the payroll, it's in everyone's interest to have a government that will continue to keep them on the payroll.
Yeah. And we're seeing this actually reflected in the fact that every solution to every problem is not, in fact, to cut state spending. It is to tax the private sector more.
Yeah.
We have, we've had a succession of governments, and I have to say I kind of include Conservative governments in this, that basically view the private sector as a cash cow in order to prop up the public.
Yeah.
At some point, the entire edifice will collapse in on itself anyway. The question is, do you want to entirely trash the private sector first, or do you want to give it a fighting chance of surviving when that inevitably happens?
But again, you won't have a public sector without the thriving private sector. It's so basic, isn't it? Talking of the public sector, first day of 5 days of strikes by junior doctors, now resident doctors, started at 7 o'clock this morning, despite we're told super flu outbreak. We've got a bad strain of flu. People in hospital. Some people are saying it's actually already peaked. I know, and we didn't have a lockdown. How did that happen, people? No, barely anyone other than a few nutters on my tube in the morning are wearing masks, and yet people are still living and surviving and going to work and going about their daily business, and kids are at school. How on earth did we manage that as human beings all these years without a lockdown? But there's a lot of anger at doctors, and it's the 14th workout by them in the last few years. It's the 3rd this year. Given that Wes Streeting, the health secretary, came in and said, look, the problem is, the government wasn't talking to them. Well, the new Labour government in July 24 talked to them, handed them a 29% pay rise, and what a surprise, within 24 hours the BMA said, and we're coming back for more. And they have come back for more. They now want 26%. They also, there's various things they want which are actually very sensible things, about more training places, and all in favour of that. But it's fascinating. The support for doctors has gone down massively. It's now only a third of the population supporting doctors in their strikes. They are risking an awful lot of the adoration and the love, the they're on pedestals, NHS doctors attitude that people in this country have.
I mean, again, that goes back to lockdown. We were told that we had to shut our lives down specifically to protect the NHS, and now people turn around and go, and where's my payback? What's the NHS doing for me?
Yep.
They will know people who have missed out on appointments, things like cancer treatment. They will have all sorts of issues. People who have children will have been told, no, don't come to the doctor, don't see them, anything like that. And now here we are, however many years later, and the service still doesn't work particularly well, and doctors saying, I need more. And part of the problem is, ultimately, is that, successive health secretaries, nobody has been prepared to be bold and say that actually what the doctors need, what the NHS needs, is a dose of medicine, is a course of treatment. Yep. It needs reform. Because I tell you what, everybody has been saying for decades now in this country, the NHS needs reform. People have got different views on what that entails, but they've been saying the same thing, but it doesn't happen. I'm telling you right now, so many of the complaints that junior doctors, that all doctors, all medical staff have, so many of the complaints would evaporate if the actual structure itself, of the edifice itself, was reformed so that it performed better, so there was less strain on people, so that they weren't having to deal in central London, for instance, with security guards because people were breaking in and there was knife crime, because things are being, and appointments being missed and equipment not working, roofs leaking.
Appointments are missed because people get an appointment in 6 months' time.
Yeah, if the system itself was prioritised for reform, rather than simply going, well, we'll give you a little bit more money to tide you over, and, oh, you need some more, OK, we'll give you a bit more, then actually the thing might get solved. Who knows?
Well, we had a report at the weekend that lots of NHS surgeons, and a lot of them don't even work full-time in the NHS, and you work mornings, do afternoons at Harley Street, if they're London doctors, but they're actually only performing, 1 day of surgery a week. I mean, I wonder why we've got backlogs.
Sorry, the irony is, the whole time our government is pushing things on us, saying, like, don't do this, don't do that, don't drink, don't smoke, don't do, because it understands prevention is the best cure. Why doesn't it actually apply that to the NHS
exactly.
itself?
They don't do it to any of their policies. I mean, talking of things that don't work, learner drivers are facing 22-week wait. I mean, a 5-month wait to get a driving test. That's for the practical test. And basically, it started during lockdown. They basically, you couldn't sit in a car with somebody, therefore everyone's going to die. The National Audit Office issued a report showing the delay has led to people actually paying, third parties, basically these bots and these organisations are paying to book test slots, and then they're paying up to £500. It's £62 for you to book a slot for it's a weekday driving test. But the key thing is you have to wait. I mean, I know my daughter went through this a year or so ago. It was like 6 weeks to get your theory, and you have to pass your theory. They won't allow you, you're not allowed to actually apply for your driving test, the practical, until you passed your theory. But your theory, I think at one point it was only eligible for a year, but because there were such delays, they had to allow it to last for 2 years, and then you're allowed to take for a test. And I think at the time we were looking at 6 to 9 months. So you book one, and then she booked one. It was the same day as a university application interview. So of course the university came first. So you got to, but and then she had to go via one of the apps, and you pay to be on an app. So you can then find out when slots get free. Okay, the government creates the problem, and again they've had. I kid you not. I mean, this is just extraordinary. They have had 19 recruitment campaigns since 2021 to get more of the driving instructors because they are civil servants.
Yeah.
And they have managed to hire a total of, guess how many? 83. 83 extra examiners.
It's because it's that bad.
Because
it's that much better to be on the dole.
Apparently it pays about 28k, but
So
I think these people can earn a
better.
lot. Yeah, people can. Yeah, it's not that much above minimum wage now. I think it may be more. That's the figure I've seen.
But of course there have been a number of scandals, haven't there? Also about people in charge of this system selling off slots to people, and this is another part of the thing. They're not particularly well paid, fine, but ultimately there's actual corruption going on in this part of government, and it's almost sort of brushed under the carpet, just like, oh, it's a few bad eggs, and oh, it's more than one story. It's about 3 or 4 or 5. Oh no, there's quite a lot. Let's not talk about it. Let's ignore it.
There's a massive issue. This is just this is a symptom. Okay, maybe you're not looking to get drunk, but if you've got teenage kids at some point, they could probably go on to learn to drive, right? I mean, again, I remember I didn't learn to drive until my mid-20s. My husband was there, I'm still learning to drive, but I didn't learn to drive until my mid-20s because you couldn't get a job on a local paper. It was a requirement. You had to have a driving licence. You need to be able to get around. So I had to learn to drive. We got our daughter through hers, and she said she passed the first time, and she says, total fluke, I'm not safe on the road. She's very clear about it. Very, very clear about it. She hasn't driven since. But it's like, tick these things off the list. But actually, lots of people, I've got family friends, their kids, they live in the middle of nowhere, they can't get anywhere. Mum is having to get them to school, and leave at 6 in the morning so she can get back to work on time. A lot of people, and they need their cars for their jobs. You can't actually get a job often without, like my local paper experience, without a licence. And it's an absolute nightmare. And it's this massive bottleneck. You can get the lessons and you can get the job, but you can't do this bit in the middle. And this is just an abject failure of the state. And apparently the issue is these are a certain rank of civil servant. And so if you upped their pay to get more of them, you'd have to up the pay of, tens of thousands of other civil servants. Put them on a different special rank then and up their pay. It's just madness.
It shouldn't be beyond the wit of the government to
No, it is, but it is beyond the wit of the public sector.
But again, this is the third, fourth story that we've done this morning, and again, a common theme throughout all of them. Lockdown has played a significant role in exacerbating this problem. This wasn't on the scale at all until the government decided artificially to deep freeze everything and then thaw it without.
You're totally right. And this is one of the key things. And every now and then when we do cover something on the COVID inquiry or some sort of report, I always say why am I talking about this? It's because the reason why we are having to put tax up, the reason every situation we're in right now is as a result of lockdown.
But there is a real reason why this has been memory hold by so many people, because so many people were so keen to unquestioningly go along with it.
Including, by the way,
have that introspection.
both politicians and mainstream media.
Yeah,
who cheered, more lockdowns now, please, keep it going.
Hugely. It's a bizarre thing. In the first sort of week just before it happened, there was criticism, there was scepticism, there were conversation. Then the second the government just went, bang, it's going to happen. Total silence, and it never. And the questioning, we all remember. All remember.
I believe the medics at the time, but that was more for me. I haven't done that since. But there we are. Let me also talk about something else we're still dealing with the aftermath of, and that's the aftermath of Brexit.
Jolly good.
Jolly good. Yes. Why not get on
Something
Brexit?
More
and
upbeat.
the clear attempt to roll back Brexit we are seeing with Keir Starmer's overtures to the EU. Like, we should be working with the EU. They're our friends and our neighbours. If they stop trying to punish us for a democratic vote, we would see them more as friends. But British students will be able to study abroad at European universities under this flagship Erasmus EU scheme for the first time since Brexit. That was scrapped as part of Brexit. We had another scheme, the Turing scheme. But later today, the Minister's going to announce that the UK is rejoining that exchange programme. So Britons will be able to spend a year studying at European universities as part of their degree course without paying extra fees, and then vice versa for European students. Here's the problem. One, most European universities charge fees of about a couple of £100 a year. Ours charge 9,500 a year. So bit of a benefit to the EU students rather than us. We're going to be offering them the tuition fees and the grants ourselves. Oh, brilliant. So we're going to be paying. We're not going to be paying for British students here in the UK. No. Apart from in Scotland, we're paying for those students, but whether you live in Scotland or not. Because Scotland, you don't pay all of your own costs. But we're going to be paying for French and German and every other student. I mean, frankly, do one on that one. But also, crucially, do you know how many students took a foreign language A-level in this year?
Oh, it's negligible, isn't it? It's
under 3% of all A-levels now are a foreign language A-level, okay? At max, I'm rounding it up, 25,000 youngsters took an A-level in a foreign language.
That's not to say they passed it. Let's
they
be clear. They just
passed
took
it. They didn't work. You're right. They passed. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That would be even worse.
But here's the thing. So here's the thing. So how many students do we think from Britain really have the language skills to go work in another European country? And how many do you think, among the massive population of Europe, do you think speak English to that standard when English is the second language of the world?
Yeah.
I mean, this is clearly a benefit to foreign students. And by the way, mass youth unemployment across most of the EU, higher than our rate.
Huge.
Who do you think is going to benefit from this?
Massively so. And they're all going to come here, and they're going to continue to come here to London, and they're going to continue to undercut wages and push up the prices when they do decide to move here to work, because that's ultimately
and push up rents, so young people in the rest of the country can't.
That'll be the next step. And of course, but the irony of all of this is, even before Brexit, actually there was a massive, sort of disproportionate number coming here than going to this idea that we sort of cut off the opportunity for a generation of young people to go to Europe. Nobody was going there anyway. There weren't any jobs for half of these people,
is a concern.
except if you were going to Germany, and nobody's taking German A level. I can tell you that much.
Exactly. This is a concern of middle class, well-to-do London lefties. Yeah. Like, little Johnny's going to be able to go and study at the Sorbonne or something. And they're going. It's not just for university students, it's other students. Do they seriously think there are all these kids sitting on housing estates in the north of the country who've never done a foreign language? They were barely taught to a decent standard at GCSE, for goodness sake, by a teacher who's never even been to the country, because they've got a stand-in, 2 different teachers they've had over the year. And you think they're going to go and go, yeah, I think what I might go and do is go and study in a foreign university. They're living in clown cuckoo land. They're little ivory towers.
They are.
They have no idea how this is not something that's going to benefit vast majority of young British people.
Oh, none of the attempts to realign with the European Union are going to benefit us at all, because the terms would always be negative. But what I would say is, even though it's bad politics for the UK, it's good politics for Keir Starmer, because despite everything, there remains a hardcore in this country of people who genuinely believe, they're probably not listening to this show, but they genuinely believe that all of our problems have not been caused by lockdown or incompetent government. Yes. They think it's Brexit. There's a hardcore, and it's almost half of the voting age public still, because those voting trends have not really changed. They genuinely think if we rejoined, everything would magically get better. And part of me wants us to do that. For the meltdown.
But also,
because when they realised how bad things were, and the Brexit rejoining actually made it worse.
It would cost us more to go. The terms we've been given. But also, you'd have a vote on that. People will not vote on those terms. But also, crucially, if you actually look at the stats of all the countries in Europe and how badly they are doing on so many of the same metrics as ours, you'd go, sorry, which ones of those have exited the EU? They haven't. It's the fact that they tie in anything that could have happened as a result of lockdown and anything that's happened as a result of the Ukraine war and energy prices. And they blame everything on the EU. It's an absolute joke.
But even institutional rot in this country going back 20, 30, 40 years when we were in the European Union.
I know.
That's the thing that makes it really
I
funny.
think that's one of the key issues, is because I think we have got the institutional rot in our civil servants who just haven't been able to do anything, because that's one of the reasons why I voted for Brexit, which was this whole sort of, every time I called a press office as a political editor, they would go, at the government, oh, well, no, that's an EU thing. Oh, no, that's a EU thing. Oh, you know what? I want your minister to be able to answer that question in the House of Commons and for you to be accountable. That's why I voted for it. Look, there's so many more things I want to talk about, including Zara Sultana, your party. I will have to get to that a little bit later, because for once I might try and go on time to the break, but demanding that prisons allow urgent medical treatment for Palestine Action hunger strikers who are on remand awaiting the full trial for their alleged actions. And as I was saying earlier, if only there was a solution on how to help people who are on hunger strike. I believe there's an app for that, Just to Eat. 10:26 is the time. We're going to take your calls in just a moment. 0344 499 1000. Call about anything you want to talk about, whether it's a doctor's strike, whether it's free TV licences, people on benefits, trying to get a driving test for yourself or a youngster. Zara Sultana, you name it, you call us. We want to get you on air. This is Talk.
the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is Talk. Welcome back. 10:30 is the time. Let's get straight to your calls. 0344 499 1000 is the number to get in touch and to get on air. And Yvonne is in Somerset. Yvonne, you want to talk about those free TV licences being proposed for benefit claimants.
I do, Julia. Is this the thin end of the wedge? When is it going to stop? If we're paying for their licences, will we next then have to pay for their televisions?
Yes, subsidised tellies and sofas. Nice subsidised warm blanket while they're sitting on the sofa.
Absolutely, and new cushions.
But that's the thing. It's like, it's not a necessity. I mean, council
Absolutely
tax,
not.
they get a discount, but is a television a necessity if you're unemployed? I would suggest maybe a little less time watching the telly, a little more time looking for a job.
Yeah, go to work.
I know, but
there are obviously real people that are in need, but a television licence is not essential.
No, exactly. Absolutely. If someone's elderly, disabled, absolutely. We all know when we're off sick, what we do is we put the telly box on. That's what we do. So, but again, we all know that a lot of people are swinging the leg. What do you make of this, I think Alan Milburn, the former Health Secretary, has been put in charge by the government of sort of looking into why all these young people are out of work? What do you make of that review?
Yeah, absolutely shocking. It's unnecessary, absolutely unnecessary, but they're getting away with it, and life is very comfortable for them because it's being made that way.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's really, really simple. If it wasn't an option, I wouldn't be able to do it. But there we are. Yvonne, thank you very much indeed. Let's go to Carol, who is in Glasgow. And Carol, you want to talk about the doctors' strikes?
Yes, I do. Thanks very much for taking my call.
Thanks for calling.
I work as a support worker. I've been doing this job now for all my life, 43 years.
Yeah.
Different companies. But however, it's a dedication. You've still got people's lives in your hands.
Yeah. When you say a support worker, who are you supporting?
Supporting people with mental health issues, disabilities, all various degrees.
Yeah, a real vocation. This is something...
It is a vocation in life. And doctors are, I believe, supposed to be that way as well. And I can't believe that they're actually turning their backs on people. I couldn't do that in my job.
No. I
really couldn't.
And we know that we know every time the doctors go on strike, and they've done quite a lot of them lately, that people will die. You get a load of consultants go on to emergency cover, but we already know people are waiting in A&E anyway, but and especially ahead of Christmas with the flu crisis.
Yeah.
Do you think it's immoral?
And if I was that way inclined, like most people are, oh no, I can't be bothered going to work, which I can assure you my partner will vouch for this. Mm-hmm. If I felt ill, I would still go to work.
Because you need it.
Because I feel as if I'm letting these people down.
Exactly. But Carol, I just ask you, do you think that the doctor's decision to go on strike in these circumstances ahead of Christmas, do you think it's immoral?
Very much so. Very much so.
Interesting. Really good to get your perspective. Listen, you keep up the fantastic work. You are the backbone of this nation, people like you, Carol. Thank you very much indeed. It's coming up to 10:34. We're going to take a break. They're going to talk to the brilliant, the wonderful Baroness Kate Hoey about all the big stories in the news. This is Talk.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, welcome back to the show. This is Talk, the Home of Common Sense for me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Let's get straight to my next guest, independent peer, former Labour MP, Kate, now Baroness Hoey. Very good morning to you, Kate.
Morning, Julia.
Thank you very much for joining us. So much to talk about. Let's talk about the obvious thing that we're all thinking, like, you know what, I really think I want benefit claimants to get more free stuff. British government apparently thinks it's a good idea for them to get free TV licences. That's what they were published in their, apparently their reform of the BBC's Royal Charter yesterday. Would you support that?
Well, I'm very disappointed with this supposed consultation that we're going to have on the BBC, because I wanted the government to actually have a very straightforward point of view that, quite honestly, in this day and age, paying the licence fee now for people who never actually want to watch the BBC but want to watch other live television channels that they may even have had to pay parts for. And it's just been ignored, and clearly the government is not going to do anything about the licence fee. They haven't even said that they'll take away it being a criminal offence not to pay your penalty.
But why would Labour reform any of this? They've got the BBC eating out their hands. The BBC senior staff and most of their presenters and producers pretty much agree with everything that the Labour Party does.
No, there is a group thinking within the BBC, which is basically, while they may not be members of the Labour Party, they're all very much aligned to that kind of Labour Lib Dem type attitude to issues, which is why they never confront things. But to actually come up with an idea that is going to give people who are on benefits automatically a free television licence would be absolutely outrageous. I mean, I was very angry when they stopped. I thought that was the beginning of the end of the BBC, when they stopped the free licence for people over 75. I thought that was something.
Why, see, I disagree. Why on earth do my parents, who got perfectly good pensions, thanks very much, why on earth should they get a free TV licence?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, it's one of these things of is it cheaper to give it to everybody over 75? How do you work it out? Because there are a lot of elderly people, and I saw them when I was an MP in my constituency, on their own, living on their own. Yeah. Their television was their kind of whole link with the world. But just to say that it's going to go to everybody who's on benefit, it's just outrageous. And I think actually, maybe that the Secretary of State thinks this is the way to protect the BBC. She went on again about how wonderful it was. It was an institution we had to save. I think this will be the beginning, really the beginning of the end, because people will not put up with it. They will just not.
Also, it just leaves, apparently, half these people in poorer households are not actually paying the licence anyway. Oh, great. So if you just break the law, we'll just make it not against the law for you to break the law. I mean, it's bizarre, especially as there's going to be more and more of us having to contribute to pay for that TV licence, because there's fewer of us paying. And also a whack of that is going to go on, best case scenario, legal fees, and worst case scenario, a payout to Donald Trump with this legal action. I mean,
that again is just not absolute. We cannot allow a situation if Trump wins that case, which I imagine he's got a chance of. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, thank goodness, but we cannot pay for it. Ordinary people cannot be asked extra money to pay for that, and the BBC is going to have to find it in some other way, or it is the end of the BBC. And I mean, there are parts of the BBC that we all enjoy, the national events that they have covered, but other channels are beginning to.
By the way, when you get a national event and you get that feed, whether it's coronation or the late Queen's funeral or other major events, that is a feed that is paid for by BBC, Sky, ITV and others, and they actually pay for it, and they all it's exactly the same footage on all those channels. I mean, it's just nonsense.
And we saw this year that actually the coverage of the budget was actually covered by another channel, GB News, better. And got more viewers rather than.
We also covered the budget, I'd like to point out. Yeah, no, exactly. They are being challenged. They are being challenged. No question at all about that. Let's talk about the doctors' strike now as well, because again, this is another problem that we've got. We've got people benefits getting more and more, and people paying taxes getting less and less. People waiting. Was it 6 million plus still on the waiting list? Wes Street and the Health Secretary has been giving evidence to House of Commons Select Committee today, and he's worried. This is a man who wants to be the leader of his party and take over as Prime Minister next year. But, you know, he needs to have shown he can achieve on waiting lists, despite throwing 29% pay rise over a couple of years to the now called resident doctors. They're gone on strike again for the third time this year. We've got a flu crisis, we're told. Lots of patients in hospital due to a particular flu strain this year. What do you make of doctors' decision to go ahead with that strike starting at 7 o'clock this morning?
Well, I was pretty amazed the second time round. I thought last week when they had that second ballot that coming up to Christmas with the flu epidemic that there is, that they would have decided. But actually, it was a big majority. And I think this is very damaging for Labour, because Labour is meant to be the party that's got very close to trade unions, can work with them, blame the Tories all the time for, you know, taking on the unions. And here we have a situation where a really essential part of our public life, doctors, particularly during the winter, are just going against what the government has wanted and going against what the public thinks. And you know what's so upsetting is that we have, I met two people in the last couple of weeks, both of them who hadn't got into medical school. Yeah. They'd applied for medical school, they'd had very good results. They didn't get in because there were a lot more people being taken from other countries first, because they pay more.
Yeah, they pay 30 grand a year instead of 9.5 grand a year. Yes. So what's the surprise? Let's take the Chinese and the Indians, the Nigerians.
And I just thought, you know, and these were young people who, you know, certainly, I mean, perhaps at the moment they were simply saying it, but they were saying, well, we wouldn't go on strike, you know, and it just is very upsetting when I think the whole way that the medical schools are operated on, that should be changed, and the government should look at that. But, you know, it's worrying for people now. People won't want to go to a hospital even for something quite serious, because they'll be worried. They're not going to get treated.
We know that people end up dying. We know that. I mean, that is the reality. It is just extraordinary. And again, I think a lot of people, their support for doctors has gone down to about 30% in this country, and that's quite telling. It used to be much higher when it came to this. A lot of people are saying, read the room, doctors. You know, read the room. You've already had a bigger pay rise than everyone else. You know, get over yourselves. There isn't any money left.
But also, you just said that, you know, lovely lady on from Glasgow talking. Those are the kind of people who are really out there caring for people who are not paid anything like what doctors are paid.
And they shouldn't. No, with all due respect to our lovely caller, Carol. I mean, I want her to be paid well, but she hasn't gone through, 7 years of university and years of training to be a doctor, and doctors have.
Yeah, but that's the other issue. It's cost the taxpayer a huge amount of money to train doctors, to put them through, to get them into that position where they're earning money, and then they turn around and treat the public like this.
Yeah, it's not going down very well. I must ask you, as a prominent Brexiteer, an absolute hero of the cause, what do you make of the UK, the announcement we're expecting from the UK government today to rejoin the EU Erasmus Student Exchange Scheme from 2027? This will allow students at British universities to take a year at a European Union university and vice versa without paying extra fees and the like. What do you make of this? Is this a wonderful scheme for young Brits, or is this actually something that's going to benefit European Union far more, and actually a sneaky way for an absolute full-on Ramona government to try and sneak us back into the EU by the back door?
Well, this is something that Remainers in the House of Lords have been pushing for literally every week for the last few years. And I don't understand it, because we've had the Turing scheme, another scheme that has allowed young people to go abroad all over the world, not just to the smaller part of the European Union. Yeah. We haven't seen the detail. We haven't seen the cost. We haven't seen... They've said something about apprentices, trying to sort of imply that it's not just about university students. We've seen no detail, and that's nonsense. Anyone who's an apprentice and is training is not going to go off to somewhere in
But this is it. I mean, literally 25,000 pupils took A-levels in foreign languages this year. It's under 3% of all A-levels. That's the people who took them, let alone actually passed them or got a decent grade, would be able to go and let alone be not studying foreign languages at university, actually being able to sort of go and take advantage of this. Whereas, of course, half of the EU, young people, will speak virtually fluent English, because all of the films and the TV and the music they listen to is in English. We know who's going to benefit from this, and it ain't our kids.
And also, Julia, we know from any other deals that our government has done with the European Union, no matter what they say, in the end, the detail always shows that the European Union has come out best. And on this, I expect they will have more students coming, they'll be paying less, it all will work out in their favour. And it's just another little drip thing that Keir Starmer wants to get us back into the European Union and go against all the wishes of all those people who voted to leave.
Yeah. And he's made no secret of it. I don't know why anyone would be surprised. Just finally, I must ask you about calls from the Policy Exchange think tank for an emergency census. We have censuses, obviously, every 10 years. The next one is due to 2031. But actually, since the last one in 21, we have had the Boris wave of migrants. Best part of 4 million more people coming to this country. We don't know where they are. We don't know where they're living. We don't know what they're doing. Don't know what their earnings are, if any. And actually, we need to find that information out because there's a massive impact on tax policy, planning, schools, you name it. Do we need an emergency census?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure. I think we all know what the position is, just how many extra people have come in and people see it all around them. An awful lot of those people are not even going to be registered enough to actually take part in the census. So, I mean, it's an idea, and it's obviously wanting to show that, to make sure that the public really, really understand just how the country has changed. But I'm not sure that I don't think it'll happen.
No.
And I cost quite a lot of money, and I'm not sure that it would change anyone's attitude or views.
All fair points. Always so good to talk to you. Voice of reason. Baroness Kate Hoey, Independent Whip, former Labour MP. Thank you as always for joining us. Benedict Spence, do you think we should need that census, or is something that? A lot of that information, by the way, sneaked out. We didn't know, but the government apparently utterly surprised that the Home Office had handed out, 1 million plus visas to people in the Boris wave.
I think we absolutely need a census. I think ultimately, for a start, you can't be trying to push the idea that everybody needs digital ID if you're not prepared to actually do the groundwork of saying, well, we know roughly or more accurately how many people there are in the country, full stop. It's not just anything else. How on earth are you going to find all of those people that you then plan on sort of clamping down on? So at the very least, I think if they are going to try and push all of this idea about greater state surveillance and this is going to stop all these things, I'd say to them, OK, get your house in order, get your ducks in order, tell us how many people are actually here and where they all come from. And then maybe we'll listen to you. Not that we actually will accept the argument, but that would be a great start.
I find it extraordinary that people who say, we should have digital ID. I'd like to get it on every show. Is they genuinely, we have a system where you have to have a passport to get into the country and you have to have a passport to get out of the country with your British or a foreign national, and we don't know how many people are in the country, how many people have arrived and how many people have left or who they are. I find that quite bizarre and not a little scary, but there we are. And that's just the people who've arrived here legally, not the ones who've come on the boats. But there we are. 10:48 is the time. Up next, we're going to talk about that whole life sentence to be extended to revenge killings against police officers, probation officers and prison officers, and also the extraordinary 21-year sentence for the Liverpool parade crash driver. That's coming up with Chris Phillips. This is Talk.
The Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very good morning. Welcome back to the show. 10:51 is the time. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. Let's talk about various different crime stories now with our guest Chris Phillips. He's a former Metropolitan Police Detective Chief Inspector. He's also former head of the National Counter-Terrorism Security Office. A very good morning to you, Chris.
Good morning, Julia.
Thank you for joining us. It's very interesting that David Lammy, the Justice Secretary, has announced whole life sentences to be extended to more sets of killings, including revenge killings against police officers, against probation officers and against prison officers as a deterrent. Why has this been brought in now?
Well, I mean, things are happening, and I don't think prison officers at all feel safe, and certainly police officers don't, and don't feel protected by legislation. And let's be quite honest, Julia, when we in this country got rid of the death sentence, there was an acceptance, and I think the public were fed a lie that a life sentence would mean someone spending the rest of their lives
Absolutely.
in prison. It hasn't.
It means about 8-10 years now, doesn't it?
It's ridiculous. And if we want to stop people from committing serious offences, we do have to have adequate and pay for adequate punishment. And if we're not going to have the death penalty, then we have to have another deterrent.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. And it's not even just as a deterrent, an appropriate punishment, a suitable punishment for the crime.
Exactly. And, I think the whole criminal justice system and the sentencing is just a complete joke. They throw out these punishments of 10 years. We all know they're not going to do 10 years. We all know that they're going to do probably 4. Well, we should be honest and say that is the punishment. 4 years in prison. And if they do something wrong in prison, then they should be kept there until... This is
exactly what I've always said. People say, well, you have to get good behaviour. Yeah, you can make sure you get good behaviour with punishments within prison and extended sentences. I don't understand. And even if it's time off, OK, 10%. I'm thinking, I can live with 10%. But after that, nope. Just you can tax me more, not for people to get free TV licence on benefits or to let 23-year-olds never work again, but you can definitely tax me more to build more prisons to put these people away for life. I've got no problem with that.
Yeah, and let's be quite honest, we should review the death penalty from time to time for people that there is no doubt they've committed offences. And we saw on Bondi Beach a couple of days ago, that man should never be not only released into the public, but we should,
Well, the charges have been brought against the man now. So he's an alleged killer now. He was a gunman yesterday, but now he's an alleged killer because we don't have summary execution in Western democracies. We actually go through those processes. But it is really interesting. I mean, the main thing is main deterrent you need is people actually getting caught in the first place, and which for minor crimes we do have a much higher rate of catching certainly killers. We do have a problem with rape. I mean, David Lammy has said that 2 years would feel like an acceptable amount of time for rape victims to wait for justice. He's vowing to bring down the court backlog. The average wait from reporting a rape to the end of a criminal trial is now 6 years. Clearly unacceptable, but asked by MPs yesterday at the Justice Committee about this delay, he said 2 years would be enough. I mean, we need to get back to a situation where these cases come to court far more quickly, don't we?
Yeah, don't you find it amazing that when there were riots on the streets, there was almost instant justice, and that effectively stops the riots, because if within days you are being shown as sent to prison for 2 years for breaking into a shop or rioting, then that kind of stops the other offences. It
focuses the mind. But suddenly all these judges were able to do this quickly. But of course, a lot of people were going to be denied bail. We know they were happy to give summary justice to people who'd just written things on social media, not actually raped somebody. But
and these offences, the strain on the victims and all the witnesses, and of course, with every passing year, the likelihood of that the perpetrator getting off with it just grows, because the victim doesn't want to go back to that and relive that 6 years later, but also the witnesses, some will die, some will not want to give evidence, and also the pressure that can be brought on on witnesses to stop them.
But also, you also did talk about someone who's been alleged to be, you're innocent until proven guilty. And often in these rape cases, it is one person's, word against another's. That actually, people who've been wrongly convicted or people wrongly accused and having that hanging over them for 5-6 years. Let's talk about a case that has been resolved, and we saw pleading guilty by Paul Doyle. He was the Liverpool parade driver who rammed his car at great speed into, some 130 people in that Liverpool SC Victory parade in May. And I have to say, we were talking on the show yesterday, I think a lot of us at first, when we saw that footage, went, OK, Islamist terrorism, modus operandi, looks like that. Then we know, no, it was a British man, white man, born locally, no motive there. And then I think a lot of people thought it was drink, it was drugs, or then we found out he was a former Royal Marine, some post-traumatic stress, or everyone's trying to come up with an explanation, because why would this sort of apparently happily married, normal, father of 2, why would he do something like that? And then we found out he was just a very angry man, and he pleaded guilty on the second day of his trial. He was sentenced, 2-day sentencing hearing, was sentenced yesterday to more than 21 years behind bars after it emerged that, even as he was hitting children and prams and mowing people down, people clinging to his windscreen, he was just still shouting, effing get out of the way, absolute fury. What do you make of a case like that?
Well, we see, especially with social media now, we see road rage happening across the country, across the world. And it's quite incredible how people can just lose their temper and do something, I wouldn't say out of character, because he's clearly got a bit of a character for violence in the past.
Well, we're talking 30 years ago in a fight.
Yeah, but we don't know what he hasn't been convicted of, because...
No. Or what's been happening behind closed doors, because we know,
we just don't know these things, and we don't know how many road rage incidents he's been involved in. But if they've not been prosecuted, then we won't be told.
Yeah.
The key thing is that he shouldn't have been able to get his vehicle into that crowd.
Yeah.
Let's start with that. But then his reaction was one that was just off the wall and completely crazy. And it was so lucky that people weren't killed.
It is an absolute miracle, and it was also extraordinary that that there were, again, as we hear in these cases, there was a hero. There was the man who just jumped into the car. And opened the door, jumped into the car, not knowing whether he was a terrorist or not, to jam his car into park. It was an automatic car, to just try and slow the car down. God knows how many more people would have been injured or could have possibly died if he had not done that. Thank God for brave civilians, absolute heroes. But again, this man said he's going to be haunted for the rest of his life by the sight of all these people being hit, the thud of their bodies, the sight of people clinging to the windscreen of the car. It is so mind-blowing and so senseless, and it's the idea that these people walk amongst us or drive amongst us and it could happen any time. It's pretty scary to people.
Yeah, I one of the things that I always say that when we run down the police and such, we don't realise just in our society how many very bad people there are, and society would actually fall apart very quickly without a good police force. Now, I think the police force of the UK have really dropped off, and all the reasons that have been given over the years. But we definitely need a strong police force to protect us, and we also need, even though we give advice for people not to get involved in these kind of incidents, we always rely on people helping the police.
And same with the Bondi Beach. Beach attack as well. It was the civilians, both at the start and at the end, who stepped in. So good to talk to you. Thank you very much. Always good to talk to you. Chris Phillips, the former Metropolitan Police DCI. Thank you for your thoughts on that. Love to hear your thoughts on all those stories as well. Give us a call, 0344 499 1000. More from me, more from Benedict Spence, lots more top guests. Including, you'll love this in the next hour or so, going to be talking to a party councillor for the Your Party, talking about those Palestinian Action hunger strikers. What do we do with them? This is Talk.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very, very good morning. Welcome back to the show. Just approaching 3 minutes past 11. This is Talk. We are the home of common sense, and I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. Whether you're listening on DAB+ radio, on your smart speaker, watching on YouTube, or your connected device, thank you so much for your company. Really appreciate you joining me. Going to be talking more about benefit claimants going to be given free TV licences on the government's review of the BBC Charter. Yeah, that's the thing we need to do. Hand out more free stuff to people on benefits. I mean, are these people insane? Read the room. Who do you think is going to be paying for the TV licence other than, the last few remaining people who've still got a job in the private sector in this country? There we are. Also going to be talking about the doctors' strike. Wes Street and the Health Secretary has been speaking the morning saying it's going to be a challenging 5 days as doctors go on strike for the third time this year, despite the flu epidemic that we're getting at the moment. We're also going to be talking more about that EU student exchange scheme, Erasmus, which is going to pave the way for thousands of EU youngsters to come to this country to study. We'll be subsidising them, but of course loads of our students are going to go and study in the EU, aren't they? Yeah, yet given the fact that less than 3% of even A-levels are in a foreign language, how many of our youngsters do you think are equipped with the language skills to go work in Poland or in Germany or in France? I mean, are you kidding me? This is no question at all trying to end Brexit by the back door. Let's call it what it is. And we're also going to be talking about latest planning rules. Now, I'm in favour of a lot of the things that the Labour Party are trying to do over planning rules, ripping up a lot of the nonsense where just one person who objects to a major planning project gets to win out and stop it for years, or the lesser spotted newt might have a habitat somewhere so no one gets to build any new homes. We've got to stop that nonsense. We're just not living in the real world. But under new planning rules, Labour will insist that all new homes are fitted with nature-friendly features such as swift bricks and hollow nesting boxes to fit into walls. Seriously, we are an insane, absolute joke of a country when we do things like that. We really, really are. Going to talk about all of that, plenty more besides, lots more to come. I want to hear your thoughts on all of the big stories, in particular benefit claimants getting free TV licences under the government's plans to reform the BBC. Love to hear your response to the doctors' strike. Also this EU exchange scheme. Is this just Keir Starmer trying to get rid of Brexit by the back door? Also love to hear your thoughts on that 22-week average wait now. Longer in some areas, by the way, to get a driving test. If you or your kid needs to get a driving test, that's how long you can be waiting. And the backlog is going to last until, well, at least 2027. Given that it started in 2021, we've got a government that can't sort out something as simple as getting kids, youngsters, anybody who needs a job with a car or who needs to actually get around in a car. We can't get them a driving test, for goodness sake. And we can't sort that out. It's 6 years on, it's going to be. I mean, again, joke of a country, non-functioning country, not in the real world. Certainly, I mean, they're talking about AI. We don't need AI. We just need some basic functioning bureaucracy. That's what we need. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all that. Give us a call. 0344 499 1000 is the number to get in touch. Text the word talk in your message to 87222. You can get in touch on X at Talk TV, and calls are charged at the national rate. Text costs £1, standard network rate message. Able to talk for free though is Conservative commentator Benedict Spence's live in the studio. Good morning once again to you.
Good morning.
Let's talk about the TV licences. Again, I'm just so sodding angry about this. We did have the fun and games of Donald Trump suing the BBC, that announcement yesterday. Variously, 5 billion or 10 billion. The whole thing is 10 billion. He's not going to get 10 billion. He's not going to get 5. He's not going to get 1. But he could get, could get a sizable sum if he won. We don't know whether he'd win in a Florida court. BBC said they're going to defend it, going to get the case out. We're told that we're looking at, 10 million quid just to fight the case, and that's if they won. They've got to spare 10 million quid for defending, making stuff up about the American president in a panorama programme. Maybe they could fund some of those TV licences.
Yes, I was going to say this is an odd moment to say, look, we're just rolling in cash, so much so that we don't need anybody to pay for our content. I mean, it's a tricky thing on the subject of the Donald Trump case. It's a tricky thing. Obviously, nobody wants somebody else to be coming in and effectively suing taxpayers, because it is us. We don't have a say over this, so it is our money that will be taken by him if he were to win. But ultimately, maybe this is the moment that will give the BBC, the corporation, the kick up the backside that it needs. You can't just carry on as you have been doing with so many moving parts and nobody quite
you can. Under a Labour government, you can.
Depending on how expensive it gets, I think ultimately, if you get to a position where, because this is the other thing. If we've got free licenses for rather a lot of people, as it's going to be, and let's say hypothetically the President of the United States takes rather a lot of money out of the corporation, that will mean at some point licenses for the suckers that pay, like me, will have to go up, at which point sooner or later people will stop paying for those license fees who have always paid for them because they think it's the right thing to do.
But also, again, it's one thing if you're actually watching quite a lot of shows on the BBC, you can think, oh, fair enough, I don't watch everything, but it does also, there's like the license fee, there's money that goes towards Channel 4 as well, public service. But there does come a point where you go, I literally don't watch anything.
Entertainment stuff. I mean, for a start, a
News
lot
is
of it is
unwatchable.
But it's unwatchable, but I think it is an essential service because actually at the end of the day, if something happens, you can't trust it. No, but again, this isn't something that we should just accept. We should be saying, look, the nation deserves a news broadcaster that is publicly funded in case we need it for breaking emergencies.
I would like it to be, and I'd like it to be independent,
and we
but
hold
it needs
it to
to be
a higher
independent.
standard. But I would also say, actually, a lot of the entertainment, some people will turn around and say, oh, but what about Strictly? What about this? Is the Traitors on the BBC? I don't know. I don't watch this sort of stuff. But there are some things that people do watch and they say is very good. Okay, if it's that good, why isn't it? Yeah, why not let it compete?
Because most of us pay for Netflix.
Because most of us pay for Netflix, and because most of the stuff on the BBC is garbage.
Yeah.
It's absolute garbage, just there to fill time. Actually, I quite like the idea of a BBC.
What do you think we're doing all day, Benedict? You and me?
Yes, but I don't charge people the licence fee. I should.
I literally have people say that whenever they talk about like BBC wages or anything like that, people on social media going, oh, but you're like, no, but you're not paying my wages or Benedict's wages or anyone else's wages. You get a choice. You can tune in or not tune in.
I tell you what, I'll say to everybody listening, go to my Twitter and I'll set up a link and you can pay a whole penny to listen to me talk for a whole year. And if enough of you did it, if all of you did it, I'd have, I don't know, about 17 quid. But still, that would be better value than the license.
Exactly. Should we be paying more to doctors? They've just started a 5-day strike at 7 o'clock this morning. Hospitals grappling with the flu wave. I mean, again, I think there's been an awful lot of hyping up, and certainly, not just by the Health Secretary Wes Streeting, but hospital bosses. Any sodding excuse for not getting their jobs done, frankly. And of course the health correspondents in the media. Oh, I mean, they're just, look, I'm back on telly again talking about a crisis. Listen to me. When I was hero worship during lockdown, I mean, they're desperate to get back on. They're ramping it up. We've got a flat flu strain. People die of flu. It's a terrible thing, and it's always going to happen. And yet somehow we will get through it, and we'll manage to do it without lockdowns or masks. Funny that. It's almost like that's what we always used to do. But doctors doing a strike now, just before Christmas. We had a care worker earlier saying, on the phone saying, look, it's immoral.
I think it is immoral to do it at this time.
Should we just give them more money then?
No, we should be we should be reforming the healthcare system in this country. Ultimately, so many of their complaints would go away if it was run like a competent organisation. And this This comes down to everything, be it maintenance of the buildings, be it security on wards, be it the fact that, sometimes you might even have to segregate wards. That can be kind of, controversial these days.
Women don't have to go in the same ward as a man?
Yeah, I mean, have you considered this sort of thing? I don't think the NHS has. I think some of them are rather upset about that. But there's all sorts of other things, and it really is the length and breadth. I can't really think of one part of the health service that is doing a stellar job. I read a stat the other day which really terrified me, which is that the budget for maternity payouts is higher than the actual budget for delivering children in the first place. Why? Because so many problems
when
happen.
It goes horribly wrong. Well, again, Angela Rayner, the former deputy leader, who whilst praising the BBC was busy suing them for negligence over her.
If you've got that kind of situation, that tells you actually what needs to happen is the service itself needs to be reformed. And I'm telling you now, if it happened, so many more people who work in the NHS would feel they had a better quality of life because the job they had wasn't basically taking place in a bin fire. Yeah, I mean, there is that, isn't there? Well, it's interesting, actually, that you mentioned that in terms of birth. Interesting stats out today showing that, and I think this is astonishing, this figure. Caesarean sections are now the most common form of birth in England, are over natural births for the first time. 45% of women who gave birth, 24-25, delivered their baby via C-section, up from just 9% in 1980. And the number who is having unassisted normal births has plummeted from 76% down to 43.8% over the same period. And another 11% are assisted deliveries, so forceps or suction. This is extraordinary. Now, look, as someone who had a 74-hour labour, and my mother, who's a doctor, was like going, get a C-section, get a C-section. You had a 74 24-hour labour. We've had them for 18 months.
Yes, exactly.
Stop complaining, Julia.
Yeah, but I had drugs. I had lots of drugs for that. So I was never done drugs before or since. High as a kite.
They're great, aren't
Was
they?
it a very traumatic experience? For my husband, yes. He had neither a bed nor drugs. I was absolutely fine. But it is extraordinary, the number of C-sections. Now, I'm very much opposed to home births, very much opposed to maternity midwife-led units, because they have much higher emergency rate. And virtually everyone I know goes, I'm going to have a birth. I'm going to birth at home. You're using a scarce resource. You get a midwife. Well, that midwife can go between various other mums in a hospital. But also, everyone goes, the stats are really safe. They're not safe, because any home birth that goes wrong is now an emergency birth in hospital. I just think, also, I've got cream carpets. Why would you do? Why would you do that, people? Why would you do that? I wanted to be in a hospital. No, because people think of births now, people think of us like this sort of experience. It's like this experience. No, don't put on whale music and light scented candles. What you want to do is go in and have you and your baby come out alive and healthy. That's all you should. That's all your concern should be. Not having an experience, but
it's a hell of an experience either way.
But it is amazing. For a lot of time, there was this whole idea that you shouldn't have cesareans. You should be natural. But as we know, there's natural births result in the third world in an awful lot of babies dying, an awful lot of mothers dying. The biggest single cause of women dying. Other than old age, for most of human existence, has been childbirth. Okay, it's a dangerous thing. But I think more women having cesareans rather than having natural births is a very worrying thing. And they put it down to older mums, more complications. That's a bad thing. I was an older mum. Really, start having babies at late 20s, 30s. Yeah. We need to make that possible for women, and then they could have more babies than women who don't have babies would. But also, women are too fat. If you're fat, you've got a more risk of having a C-section, more risk of health problems for you and your baby being larger and not being able to come out. We need to tackle this at source. You heard it here, First Lady. Lose some weight, he said, having a double chin. That's just imagine the last couple of years. I mean, I was born by a caesarean section. My middle name's Augustus. This might be the way my God complex came from a very early stage. You thought Benedict was bad enough. I know. Born by C-section, called Augustus. It does, the mystery has been solved. But I think also, the subject of the older mothers thing is a very important thing, because women are being told, basically, that you can have it all if you push it off later. Just a lie. But here's a really interesting thing, though. If you have children when you're quite young, and I don't mean like you're very young, I mean sort of like 20s, early 20s, your chances of being able to conceive and have a completely healthy pregnancy in your 40s, it's something like quadruples or something like that. Actually, the earlier your first child, your body, it's like your body kickstarts. The second your body goes, this is what I'm good at, this is what we're going to do here, it stays like that. So as much as people are told, don't have the child early on, wait, listen, if actually what you want is to have children, you do need to be doing it early. I am evangelical about this. I literally, I'm virtually going up to women in the street going, are you in a long-term relationship? Have a baby. Have a baby now. Have a baby. No, but I said, people will say, how many have you got? I've got one child because I'd left it too late. It wasn't my choice. Will you have a baby with me? Will you have a baby with me? I mean, genuinely, I met my husband. I met my husband at the age of 35, and and we had a lot of troubles. We had 4 miscarriages and IVF afterwards. I had a really long time, and I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. And one of the saddest statistics, I think, is that women, 50% of women who don't have a child at 30 will never have a child, but 90% of women say they want a child. And I think it's terrible. We've got a demographic crisis. It's an economic demographic crisis as well in this country, and an epidemic of loneliness and people, and unhappiness. And I think having a child is one of the things that makes you the most happy and fulfilled in life. It beats everything else for me, being a mum, and I just find it unbelievably sad, and again, and the risk that we're putting to mums and to babies, of women having babies later. We've got to make sure that people haven't got, like, men and women, that they're able to buy a home, they're able to settle down, they haven't got tuition, they haven't got student tuition fees they're paying off. We need people to be able to start their life sooner and get on with life sooner. And this idea that you can leave everything until later and there's no problem, it's, if I meet one more woman going, I'm going to freeze my eggs and have a baby at 45. You can freeze your eggs, sweetheart. I'm telling you right now, you will not have a baby at 45. Yeah, it's a huge thing that's been sold to people, and of course they don't realise until they're too late. But I think it's part of a broader, we have to take a step back and say, look, if what is most important to people in a society, I would have thought presumably the continuation of that society. We need to be saying actually to an awful lot of the the people who are on the benefits, and older people as well, people who are of grandparent age, that sort of thing, look,
actually there are a finite number of people in this country who are of an age where they can have children, and look what's happening to them. They are being taxed, they are being pilloried, they are not able to do the things they need to do to have those children. Do you want to have grandchildren? Do you want there to be a legacy?
Make it possible.
Because exactly. You need to help them.
Absolutely. So much more to talk about. Coming up, though, you'll be delighted to know we have a councillor for your party. That's, Jezbollah, and he's going to be talking to us about those Palestine Action hunger strikers that the Your Party MP Zara Sultana has been. Well, she's camped outside overnight, demanding that an ambulance was sent in for one of those hunger strikers. But if only we could come up with a cure for people who are ill because they are on hunger strike. If you can come up with any ideas to help, do get in touch, 0344 499 1000, or you could just go onto your app for Deliveroo or Just Eat. 11:18 is the time. The Your Party councillor is up next. You don't want to miss this. This is Talk.
The Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good afternoon, welcome. So good morning, sorry, I don't know why I suddenly went to the afternoon. It's 11:21. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. This is Talk. We are the home of common sense. Let's talk right now about what is going on in a prison in this country where people are being starved to death. This is HMP Bronzefield in Surrey, where various Palestine Action affiliated prisoners being held on remand awaiting their trial over various allegations of various crimes. They have gone on hunger strike. Some of those hunger strikers are on day, I think they'll be on day 16, so day 46 of their protest. Others day 45, others just a couple of weeks. But last night, the Your Party, former Labour MP, Your Party MP now Zara Sultana, basically travelled to the prison to demand an ambulance for one of those affected. This is Cressa Zura. And this is what she put out on social media.
I've been contacting the ambulance service all evening because Gesa Zahra needs urgent medical care, and I've been told that it is the prison that have denied an ambulance transfer for her to go to hospital. Can I ask that the prison immediately allow an ambulance to transfer Gesa, who's on the 46th day of her hunger strike? Hello.
I will consult with my medical team.
I'm going to be just sitting outside until an ambulance is allowed in to transfer her to hospital.
Should have explained, actually, that was the call that she made outside the hospital on social media, of course, to the prison authorities repeatedly. Eventually, the prison authorities just hung up on her. But she and others, including Jeremy Corbyn, who asked about it in the House of Commons yesterday, have been demanding that the lawyers representing the hunger strikers from Palestine Action get a meeting with the Justice Secretary, David Lammy. That was refused by one of his ministers yesterday. But some have been hospitalised. Others are still behind bars. Let's talk about this with Dave Bagent. He's a councillor for your party in Cambridge. Very good morning to you, Dave.
Good morning, Julia.
Thank you for joining us. Can you explain to us, first of all, I mean, we need to make it clear, obviously, these people are on remand. They have been charged with but not found guilty of any crime as yet. But, of course, this case is still going through the motions, so we need to be very careful about how we talk about that, not prejudice the trial in any direction. But what is the purpose of their hunger strike?
Well, I suppose it's to draw attention to the situation that they've been locked in prison for over a year now, that they think that they should have a right to trial. Probably they're arguing that they should be released on bail, and they are just think it's totally unfair and it's wrong. And I mean, we talk about hunger striking. These people are refusing food as a protest. They consider themselves to be political prisoners. It's a very difficult situation, I accept, but these people are fighting for a cause. It's not their fault that they've been on remand for a year. It's the government's fault. It's the government and previous governments that failed completely to put in place a judicial system whereby they may in fact get a trial within 6 months, which is, I suppose, what we consider to be a fair amount of time.
Well, I mean, they are in remand, and again, lots of people waiting an awful long time for their trials. And I consider that to be unacceptable. But other people are also forced to be there. Now, must remember that they claim they are political prisoners. They are remanded on charges that aren't related to their political views, but also towards allegations of violent crime. They're perpetrated on behalf of they justify it through their political views, but including, and it's on video, someone being hit, a security guard being hit in the back with a hammer, a large hammer. Now, the allegations are going to have to go through the courts, and no one is proven guilty of these crimes yet. But it seems to me to be not unreasonable for the authorities to remand people behind bars when they face allegations of violent crime.
Well, all 8 of them are alleged to have committed a violent crime. They haven't been found guilty, as you say. They've not been found guilty of any offence whatsoever. It's not all 8 of them that are accused of violent crime. So why are they all being held in prison on remand? They're making a reasonable request. This is not something simple to do. When Bobby Sands starved himself to death in Northern Ireland a long, long time ago, it wasn't something that he did for fun. He did it because he wanted to draw attention to the plight that was happening then when people were being held without trial. This is the same sort of thing.
But they're not being held without trial. I mean, 3 of the alleged protesters from Palestine Action accused of breaking into a UK subsidiary of an Israeli defence firm, causing £1 million worth of damage. They've denied the charges, obviously, against them. That's what some of the others who are involved. But there are also, allegations of also people armed with sledgehammers and whips at a break-in at a site near Bristol back in August 2024. I mean, a series of raids being carried out. Now, I mean, you can say these people are political prisoners. They haven't just... They're not alleged to have expressed a view on social media and then they've been arrested for it. They are being accused of serious criminal offences, physical actions.
They're certainly arrested, as I understand it, of offences that are quite serious. But that doesn't mean that they should be. If it's serious, let's get it into the courts and dealt with.
But you know there are long delays in the courts. I mean, should this be a priority over, say, I don't know, a rape case?
I'm not going to make judgments like that.
Well, no, but that's what the courts do.
You're not going to expect me to. The reality is that these people are on hunger strike and drawing attention to their plight. They've drawn attention to their plight.
Well, okay, yeah, we're talking about it now. But the thing is, here we've got Zara Sultana. We've got an MP who is spending her time worrying about people going on a hunger strike and saying they've got health problems as a result of their hunger strike. I mean, there are lots of people on social media saying these people haven't eaten all this time. Look, I'm sorry, they have been eating some food. They certainly have been drinking water. They would be dead otherwise. But there is a really simple solution. If you're on hunger strike, you're basically, I'm going to go on hunger strike for my cause, I believe in my cause. OK, fine. You want to do that? That's up to you. It's a free country. If you want to starve yourself to death, that's fine. But I mean, I'm not entirely sure why the authorities or everyone should be concerned about that. They have chosen to harm themselves. There is a solution to them harming their bodies as a result of not eating. And that solution is to eat, which they could choose to do at any time.
There's two solutions, aren't there? There's the one solution that you say, which is quite simple, or appears quite simple for them to eat. The other solution is that they put them on trial or they release them on bail.
Oh, well, I mean, again, so we should, I mean, you're basically talking about emotional blackmail to get their trial moved up.
Well, I don't think it's emotional blackmail.
Well, it is. I mean, you're saying that trial, because it's not like other trials aren't taking place. There'll be other people who are behind bars, on remand, waiting for their trials. And again, I agree. I think it's unacceptable people should wait that long. But one of the things,
I think that's the whole point.
No, but you're saying that their case should go out above those cases.
No, what I'm saying is there's a simple solution, which is to put them on trial or release them on bail. Why can't they release them on bail?
I imagine the reason, given that most people are given bail waiting trial because of the long waits, I imagine the reasons given in court would be a concern about. I'm not alleging this myself, but I imagine concerns that will be expressed in the court for such similar cases would be a concern that repeated criminal activity would take place and that there was a risk of more violence that has been already alleged to have taken place. I mean, those would be reasonable concerns.
Julia, as you're saying, you're thinking that. You don't know that. Nobody knows that. We haven't been told
I'm pretty sure in the court, I'm pretty sure when they weren't given bail, they would have been told why. They would have to, that would have had to be given in court, that information. You just saying you don't know it. I've not been following the case because their plight is not a particular concern of mine. But you claim to care an awful lot about this case.
And it's a concern of a lot of people.
Who?
And I think that if you've only got to look at the media to see that people are actually concerned about this.
No, I'm talking. I'm looking at it. I've got genuinely. I mean this. I care not a jot whether these people live or die.
I'm sorry for you.
I care not a jot.
Well, I'm sorry that you feel like that.
Why?
Because I think that's heartless.
But they're choosing. If they choose to starve themselves to death, I'm not quite sure why that's my problem.
Well, I think it's certainly my problem. I'm a lifesaver. I've spent all my life helping and saving people's lives and doing things like that. I do feel affected by this. I was a firefighter in London for 30 years. I spent 30 years of my life helping people.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And I then went on to become a university lecturer, and I did similar things. I was helping people to get education. I'm now a politician. I'm helping people again.
Well, if you want to help these people, go and shove a burger in their gobs.
No, that is a facetious. And
no, it's not. No, it's not. No, it really isn't. Look, you know who I was concerned about? I was concerned about, I mean, I know your party, literally your party is not concerned at all about this, but I was really concerned about the 250 hostages taken by Hamas to Gaza, who were starved almost to death, some actually to death. And we saw those emaciated people surviving 2 years, living on like a pita bread a day, or half a pita bread a day, coming out emaciated, massively damaged. I mean, I'm more concerned about them because they didn't have a choice about whether to eat or not. And their Hamas guards, who Palestine Action apparently do support, because they've been really remarkably uncritical of Hamas, they didn't seem to have a problem with that. Now, those people had no choice about whether to eat or not. The people you're talking about, who you're so concerned about, could eat some food right now, right this moment, and they choose not to. So why are we worried about them?
I'm worried about them because they're making a protest. They're making a protest about something that is wrong. I've spent a lot of my life protesting. I've spent a lot of my life helping, all of my life helping people. I don't think that to say that they should be ignored because they're making a protest and it's their own fault is right. I think you're wrong about that. I agree with you about Hamas. I agree with you about what happened on the 7th of October. I agree, and you haven't mentioned it, but I would agree about all the other atrocities that have happened before the 7th of October.
There we go. There we go. Always.
What? Why
always got to get that. Always got to get that in because it kind of justifies October the 7th, doesn't it?
I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair.
Okay, you're the one who chose to mention it.
Well, I did, yeah, absolutely.
We were talking about hunger strikers. I'm talking about people who were literally starved almost to death in the tunnels in Hamas. Your party doesn't seem to be very concerned about them. Neither do the hunger strikers in behind bars in British prisons who are not being starved to death, who are choosing to starve themselves. If they choose to starve themselves to death, that is their business and not mine.
Well, I think it is my business. I'm a politician, so therefore I do think it's my business. I think Zara Sultana thinks it's her business.
So the authorities should give in to emotional blackmail.
I don't think it's emotional blackmail.
Isn't
it's
it?
drawing attention.
So their case should get priority over other cases of people waiting on remand a long time for their cases. Their case should go ahead because they're willing to go on a hunger strike.
No, I think they should be released on bail, probably.
They should be released on bail.
Yeah,
maybe the British people don't want people who've been accused of violent crimes to be released on bail.
Maybe British people don't want people to be incarcerated for over a year without trial. It's not that the system is broken. And whilst it's broken, these people are drawing attention to that. There's nothing that the British public wants to see, like the next thing will be they'll put them in front of 2 judges and say, well, we're not even going to have a jury on this. You know, that's a possibility. I don't think that's right either.
Okay.
And I'm sure that you don't. If you were locked up for an offence that you had not done, and there is
no. We are talking about people who've been charged with a crime and have not been found they're innocent until proven guilty.
That's right.
That is different.
Exactly.
They've yet been to be proved to have committed the crime. It's not necessarily the same thing as what you said.
Well, I think what I was trying to say, what I hoping I would say, was that they were locked up. They've been locked up for over a year, and I was saying, if you were locked up for over a year,
what about
that you hadn't done, how would you feel?
What about all the people who are currently also on remand for long periods of time waiting their trials?
Well, I think that's wrong as well.
They should all be. So rapists, murderers,
Julia,
violent robbers. We should have them all out on bail.
Julia, you're using that very emotive term, and of course that's one of the most horrendous crimes that there are. Mm-hmm. But they're not rapists till they're proved guilty. And I'm not suggesting for 1 second that you should just open the prison doors and let people out.
I think that's literally what you're saying.
I am saying that these people are receiving representation by members of Parliament, not only your party, but Barry Gardner-Smith from the Labour Party, a number of people from the Labour Party, there are people from the Conservative Party, who are all raising this as an issue, and yet it's not being debated. That is what our country should be doing. Okay. They should be debating this issue.
Well,
and let's face it, they've managed to get onto talk radio. I've managed to talk to you. Yeah. You've talked to me. You've taken some merchandise out of this.
Merchandise?
Yeah, well,
it's a story, so I want to talk about things that people are seeing and hearing about to get to the bottom of it. Look, I agree. I don't think trials should be taking that long. Absolutely not. But I don't know why people who are going on hunger strike should take priority over anyone else. And again, there's a simple solution. If they've got health problems, I don't think they should be, especially at a time of a strike, bothering the health service with their brought-on health problems when other people who are desperately in need their health service. I mean, there's another argument there as well, isn't there?
Well, there's lots of arguments. There's lots of arguments as to why people get ill, and we don't want to go down that tunnel, do we?
Well, I mean, yeah, people getting ill in the tunnels of Gaza because they were being starved to death, as opposed to people are choosing to make themselves ill. Then we're going round in circles. Dave, I really appreciate you coming on. Then I do appreciate your time. He's your party councillor in Cambridge, Dave Bajent. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Do give us a call. 0344 499 1000 is the number to get in touch. Quick thoughts from Benedict Spence on that.
He's right about 2 things. One, the system shouldn't be allowing people charged with very serious violence offences to not have been tried properly yet. The second second is to raise the concept of the possible removal of jury trials. That's not going to apply to this case, but he's right to raise it that in future, David Lammy has said it, that they want to get rid of jury trials for some things. They won't stop at just unserious things. That will eventually become the case for everything, mark my words. But let's be clear, they're not going on hunger strike here for that. No. They're doing it because they're charged with very serious offences, and they would like sympathy, and they would like that to actually affect their trial. That's what they want.
Okay, all right. Again, that child, again, people have a right to a fair trial, and if people are innocent until proven guilty, it must be, we're better than the people who don't think that, by the way. That's our system. 11:37 is the time. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, welcome back to the show. 11:39 is the time. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. This is Talk. Look, let's get back to the doctor's strike right now and talk to Jamie Jenkins. He's a former statistician with the Office for National Statistics. Jamie, good morning to you.
Good morning, Julia.
Thank you very much. Very well indeed. Thank you for joining. Sorry, it's a little bit later than I planned because we wanted to squeeze in talking to that your party councillor. Fascinating story about the hunger strike. Because again, people needing hospital treatment, adding pressures on the NHS through their own choice, their own actions. But a lot of people be very wary of using the NHS with these doctors' strikes beginning at 7 o'clock this morning. Now we're told it's going to leave elderly patients stranded at Christmas because a lot of that paperwork that is done this week won't be getting done. But I mean, a lot of people are just wondering why are doctors going on strike when we've got massive waiting lists and when they've had a 29% pay rise and they're now demanding another 26%.
Yeah, so I think when you take it in the round, let's just go back to the start. So they're claiming that they've had a big pay cut since 2008, and some of the doctors who are claiming this actually joined the NHS after 2008. So you can't really, when you're voting based around that, you can't really argue with that argument. They're also talking around the fact that the number of places available for doctors aren't there. I think that's one critical thing here. You've talked about this a lot in the past, that when you think about the size of the waiting lists, the fact that some of these resident doctors, when they get, I think, to their third year and they go in for those speciality posts, that they're not there. I think there were 30,000 applicants for 10,000 posts. That is a bit obscene, really, because we do need probably more. I'd rather have a resident doctor paid, say, 40, 50, 60 grand a year than some of these diversity managers in the NHS.
Yeah, I think we could all agree on that. But there are some, as you say, there are some legitimate concerns about training places. And, all these people, we're paying 250k a year, 250k in total to train up doctors on top of the tuition fees they're paying. And then they're coming out and they can't get a training place. And they can't do that because there aren't enough doctors to supervise them because of a whole dumb system we've got in the NHS, this ridiculous, monolith we've got. But as you say, a lot of these claims are based on this whole, we've lost our pay. If you go back to 2008, now they choose 2008 for a specific reason. And you made the point that lots of these doctors actually have only been in the, they've chosen to be a doctor, within, much shorter period than that. But they choose 2008 and they use, as it RPI instead of CPI, whichever way around, is they use a different rate of inflation than pretty much everyone else does. To basically claim that they're massively got a pay cut, which they haven't had anything like the pay cut they claim.
No, so they use the RPI figure because it's generally higher than the consumer price index, and which is the kind of the headline measures of inflation. The RPI was debunked as a good measure of inflation a long time ago. It's only published still by the ONS, Julia, because there are a number of kind of index-linked gilts that the government issue. They were sold at the time linked to the RPI, so the ONS still need to calculate that. So it's not really a robust number. But ultimately, I think this is the 14th strike that we've had since March 2023, and they've already had a big pay rise, significant pay rise. And if the government caved in to these demands, every part of the public sector, even the private sector, a lot of people have had real pay cuts since 2008 because we had that financial crisis. There was no money left by the government, so there was the austerity measures which came in under the Brown.
And we only really heard about the public sector pay restraints, a freeze or just a 1% rise, that was below inflation. But people were saying, oh, this is terrible on the public sector workers. But in fact, private sector workers had not seen pay rises up with inflation in about the 5 years before then. And they also continued to see pay cuts in real terms as well. So, everybody's been in the same boat. And even the figures we've had this week about unemployment, and I want to talk to you about that because you've been talking an awful lot about unemployment in your posts on social media and the like. But when we see people's wage rises, public sector are seeing wage rises roughly double what the private sector are getting.
Yeah, significant pay rises in the public sector. And if the government was to cave in here, they would have a sway of other pay demands for the public sector, because the police might say, well, some people are going to go on strike here, the nurses are going to go on strike. And the reason they are coming back for more, Jude, is because they caved in last time. So, if you cave in again, are we going to be in the same situation next year? And going back specifically on the strikes, this is not the time of year to be having a strike. Winter, we've got the winter pressures, we've got the flu coming a little bit earlier than we normally do. If you have a strike in the summer, it's much easier to plan. And you're right to talk about the delays in the discharge, because the nurses can't discharge the patients. The doctors need to be there. So we've got consultants who are going to have to go onto the ward. So there's fewer doctors to do the discharge. And the big critical thing, they'll say we're protecting the emergency care. But the problem, Julia, is you go to the A&E, and if people can't be put into the wards because they're still all clogged up, you then get ambulances backed up outside the hospitals. You phone for an ambulance if you had a stroke or a heart attack. It won't get you, and people will die that way. And that's the big critical issue with this strike at the moment.
It just basically is a backlog all the way into the communities. And I have to say, genuinely, people say, if you need an ambulance, call an ambulance. But most people who call an ambulance don't need an ambulance, by the way. It should be for an absolute emergency, not, or, if you can get a taxi there or get someone to drive you there, that's what you should do. And people think also, by the way, if they get an ambulance, they get seen sooner. No, you really, really don't, unless you need that care immediately from a paramedic, at home. Get in a taxi, get someone to drive you, flag someone down in the street is probably a safe way of getting to hospital right now. But the thing is, this all has knock-on effects. Now, you also talk about unemployment quite a lot, and number of benefit claimants, because you've been a statistician at ONS, and all of this, it all ties in. I mean, this ridiculous situation with so many things where we've got mass unemployment, we've got mass people on benefits, and yet we're constantly told we need to bring people from abroad to come and do jobs here, whether it's picking fruit and vegetables or whether it's working as doctors in the NHS. What on earth is going on?
Yeah, well, we've just, I think they've announced this scheme that we're rejoining the European Union as well, Julia, this morning. And I think it's going to cost us £570 million to rejoin that. That's not a good use of taxpayers' money. I think that's more than the tax you would take in from this kind of this controversial tax on the farming industry. So if you go back to the employment figures as well, what we are seeing is public sector employment is going up. The NHS is at record numbers of people. The civil service is growing, but the private sector is shrinking, hospitality in particular, and the retail sector. And basically, if the private sector is shrinking, the tax base is shrinking, and we're not getting the people coming in now, basically, to pay for that tax, to fund. So what does it mean, Julia? More borrowing. I think on Friday we got the ONS borrowing figures out. They will be worse again. It's not a good place.
And the interest rates are going up. They're costing us more. And again, more. We spend so much more of our tax, the tax that comes in every year, on servicing our debt than we spend on education, defence, and all the other stuff that actually really matters. Oh, it's a frustration. Thank you very much, Jamie. Always good to talk to you. Former ONS statistician, as you'll see if you're watching on the screen. Stat of the Nation is where you can hear him, and he understands his numbers, which are damn sight more than most politicians and indeed most NHS bosses can. Benedict Spence, and we've talked a lot about the doctor strike. It's interesting, we're talking more about the doctor strike this time round than actually often we go, oh, must put that on the news list, must discuss it. It's barely in the news, and actually they've managed to keep, 95%? They're getting used to it. It's just part of the general NHS crisis, 95% of their operations going ahead. But because of this flu outbreak, there's extra pressure. So there's more criticism of doctors over this particular period.
There is, and it's difficult because there's always an uptick in illnesses at Christmas time. Yeah, everybody knows that.
Oh, really? Wait a second. Can you tell the NHS that? Because they don't plan for it.
OK, but they'll get back to me in about 18 months, by which time we'll have already had another flu outbreak by then. But that's the thing. Is that
it'll be by a letter.
Yeah, and it's the constant sort of fax, maybe, or pager. They're one of the only people that use pagers apart from them and Hezbollah.
They'll send you a pager to tell you to check your fax machine.
Yeah, basically. But it's one of those where, I think just patience has run out. If we're being honest here, there was this whole sort of thing that says, at the very least when Labour get in, they'll be able to talk to the unions. That's not worked at all. The whole thing about going back to what we were talking about earlier, lockdowns, you're doing this to protect the NHS, and now here we are and the system still doesn't work and people are still complaining. And it's when it gets down to a sort of, let's be clear, sort of mundane thing, the annual flu outbreak, that people just go, do you know what, actually, no. This is not the sort of thing that you should be, picking this exact moment to strike over. Actually, this is the thing that we really expect you to step up at, the basics, and you're not doing it.
Exactly. 11:48 is the time. Coming up next, we're going to be talking about something. This is going to enrage you. Labour's new planning rules are going to include a requirement for all new homes to be bird-friendly. I kid you, beep not. That's up next. This is Talk.
The Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good afternoon. I keep saying good afternoon, good morning. 11:52 is the time. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. This is Talk, the Home of Common Sense. Just a very interesting statement that's been released by the Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police and the Chief Constable of Greater Manchester Police in the last 10 minutes or so in the wake of that Bondi Beach attack. Of course, we had those charges brought against the murder charges brought against the killer, the alleged killer, one of the gunmen who has now come out of his coma and is still alive. But it's very interesting. They talk about the two recent terror attacks targeting Jews, both in Manchester and in Bondi Beach, and the increased fear of Jewish communities, a high number of terror attacks disrupted in recent years. They say it requires an enhanced response. They say current laws are inadequate, and they welcome the fact the Home Secretary is looking to review the current public order and hate crime legislation. They're talking about how they're going to recalibrate, they say, to be more assertive in relation to the words and chants used, especially in protests. They say they matter and have real-world consequences, including phrases causing fear in Jewish communities. They've told previously they don't meet prosecution thresholds. However, placards and chants such as "globalise the Intifada" and those using phrases like that should now expect the Met and the Greater Manchester Police to take action. They say violent acts have taken place, the context has changed, words have meaning and consequence. We will act decisively and make arrests, and frontline officers will be briefed on this, they say, enhanced approach. I think this is a very, very welcome development. I mean, it's in gobbledygook or a police speak, but basically they're saying, yeah, we are now accepting that some of these phrases like globalise the Intifada, which means kill all the Jews worldwide, literally what it means, have meaningful, real-world, violent consequences, and action will be taken. It's something I think many people will welcome. Benedict Spence, very, very, very brief response to that. Very brief.
This is right, but I'm also depressed that our civil liberties are going to be trampled on in order to deal with these savages.
Your civil liberties, you don't have the right to call people to die. I'm sorry, that does not include. That's not including.
Well, if I have more time to answer.
Well, and we'll come back to it after 12. I promise. I've got PMQs at 12, of course. Right now, let's talk about the latest madness from this government. Sensible planning reforms to actually allow people to put stuff up and not have some random person go, oh, but I can see the corner of the building out of my view and I don't want it there, so no one gets to build a new home. But they're also now saying that new homes have to be bird friendly. I kid you not. Let's talk about this with James Hummerston Pope. He's a housing expert and joins us now. Good morning to you, James.
Good morning. How are you?
I mean, very well, other than just exasperated. Even when this government does something good and sensible, like trying to reform the planning laws, they still go mad and come up with something stupid. I mean, I don't want houses to be deliberately not bird-friendly, but surely if someone wants to put up a bird box, they can put a sodding bird box up. What on earth are they requiring?
Yeah, I mean, it's another piece of red tape which is only going to hold up house building and development, which is what we desperately need throughout the whole of the United Kingdom. The reality is this is a small change. I mean, I don't see the problem in builders adding in these bird boxes or these bricks which allow these endangered species to...
These are hollow nesting boxes that fit into walls. They're called swift bricks, aren't they?
That's it. Yeah, exactly. So there's no problem in that. But why create this now when they are nowhere near their target of 1.5 million homes?
Oh, are they really, James? You're telling me a government's going to come in with a target of building homes, they're not going to meet it? I mean, I'm shocked.
I know, it's wild. But look, the reality is that adding in these new planning rules, which are only going to slow down the planning process and the building process, is just nuts.
But we've already got, bad enough all these sort of, eco nonsense. I mean, okay, I don't mind new homes being built, being more eco-friendly, but there are so many different silly little, rules that are now, the fire escape sign is in like 1 point out of the size it's supposed to be, so we're not going to sign if you're building, a project for 6 months. I mean, we're told this delay after delay after delay after delay. It's almost like 1 step forward and 2 steps back on this.
Yeah, but it's always that, isn't it? There never seems to be any proper development or any step forward to actually deliver the homes that we need throughout this country.
And that people want. I mean, and people
want them.
Homes that people want to live in, because I do think that part of the issue is like, they're constantly building around my way. I'm not allowed to even change my windows. I'm in a conservation area, but at the end of the same road, they can put up an absolute monstrosity. It's all glass, and of course, therefore, people are freezing in winter and boiling in summer. No, you know what I mean? Like, you go, there's a reason why we didn't do that, as a design. But they're building loads of places, but they haven't got gardens. They haven't got anywhere for, for a growing family. They don't seem to be building the homes that people actually want where people want them.
Look, they're not. And the other problem is that they're talking about land grabs now, where they're going to make it easier for developers to come in, buy large plots that people have as gardens, and then develop those.
But those are people's homes.
Yeah, but people can sell their gardens. People are allowed to sell their gardens off. But the fact that that's now becoming a strategy to try and hit those 1.5 or that 1.5 million pound home target is, again, another crazy scheme. But there's brownfield sites out there that give the possibility of delivering sort of 1.2, 1.4 million new homes, and we're focusing on small developments in people's back gardens.
And building basically next to every single railway line in Britain as well, which seems to be the thing. I mean, we're like literally on the line. But there is so much. Again, I'm a massive fan of us building on the green belt. People have this idea of what the green belt is, in the middle of this beautiful rolling countryside. No, I mean, so much of the land outside lots of our major towns and cities is it's not beautiful land. It's basically land that would, and people need homes. I find it extraordinary. I'm perfectly happy with the value of my home to go down, for there to be more homes, so that young people can afford to buy homes, start a family. We were talking about that earlier in the show, people having kids earlier, and to have the life they want. And people in their 30s, even in their 40s, still renting or living at home with their parents. I mean, it's just not on.
No, it's not. It's not. I understand why people get annoyed about these mass developments in their towns, because the reality is there's no plan to it. So they don't talk about infrastructure. Actually, services get worse in your home location.
There's no extra doctors or supermarkets. Parking
makes your quality of life in your hometown worse. Actually, what they should be doing as a government and as mass builders is looking at where they can create new towns, new communities that doesn't impact on current homes.
Or build nicer homes. Because lots of them are just absolute monstrosities. They really, I don't want to sound like the king, but my God. Oh, so good to talk to you, James Humston Pope. Thank you very much indeed. Benedict Spence, I know that you're a recent homeowner. It's only, after years of struggling with that, it is an absolute nightmare.
I disagree. I think that actually houses need to be bird friendly. Big kitchen, lots of storage space, that sort of thing. Otherwise, you're going to get it in the neck the whole time. Any man will tell you. I
was going to say, I thought bird friendly meant lots of cushions and candles. I thought
yes,
dimmer switches.
I got a joke in there somehow.
Yeah, well done. No, but it is so frustrating, as if this is a priority. I mean, good Lord, just build some more homes that people want to live in. So much more to talk about. Rachel Reeves is saying something at Grangemouth Chemical Plant. We're not taking it live because obviously we like you too much. We will be taking the start of PMQs live, the final PMQs of the year. Thank the Lord for that, folks. This is Talk We Are the Home of Common Sense.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good afternoon. Welcome back to the show. 2 minutes past midday is the time. This is Talk. We are the home of common sense, and I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. Joining me in the studio still is Conservative commentator Benedict Spence. We briefly unlocked the door to allow in Peter Cardwell, Talk presenter.
Hello, Julia.
Hello, you. Welcome back to the show.
You.
Always good to get you in. Final PMQs of the year. Yay! About to start in the House of Commons, and I think, I believe it's actually already started. We can go straight to PMQs right now. Kemi Badenoch with her first question.
Mr. Speaker, the anti-Semitic terror attack on Bondi Beach was sickening. It has had a profound impact around the world, including on Jewish communities here in the United Kingdom. These incidents are not isolated. We think of the appalling attack at Heaton Park earlier this year, and these incidents are chillingly focused on some of the holiest days in the Jewish calendar. Mr. Speaker, I've been in touch over the last few days with the Community Security Trust, the Home Office and the Chief Rabbi about security for Hanukkah events here in the United Kingdom. Last night we held a Hanukkah reception in Downing Street where I reaffirmed our fight against the poison of anti-Semitism. We will use all of our powers to make sure Jewish communities are safe and secure as they should be. Mr. Speaker, may I also take this opportunity to wish you, all the staff in Parliament, every member and their families across the House a very happy Christmas and a little festive advice to those in reform. If mysterious men from the East appear bearing gifts, this time report it to the police. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today. Reward.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I associate myself with the Prime Minister.
That was, we're going to get the very first question. Kemi Badenoch not asking question, just that statement there from Keir Starmer at the beginning and talking about what's happened at Bondi Beach, and also a little bit of a dig there at reform, very interestingly. This is over, and there's a debate, got a statement in the Commons yesterday about, obviously, in the wake of this this jailing of a former leader in the Wales of reform for accepting bribes from, over Russians. Basically being a traitor to his country, no question at all. If mysterious men from the East bearing gifts come, this time report it to the police. I mean, quite a dig there, Peter Cardwell.
Certainly, and the Nathan Gill story is one of the ones that Keir Starmer wants to keep plugging away, keep pushing the pressure on Nigel Farage. He keeps essentially arguing that he is in hock to Russia. Nigel Farage, of course, denies that, but it was a funny line.
Yeah, and also, Benedict, just very briefly, as soon as Kemi Badenoch stands up, we'll end, but just it is that ongoing issue about whether reform has been staunch enough on Ukraine.
It is, but I'd also be careful about making jokes about mysterious men coming from the East if I were Keir Starmer, seeing as he doesn't seem able to stop them, and there's rather more than 3 coming over.
Yeah, that is a very, very fair point, and indeed, as someone who's accepted many mysterious gifts from Lord Ali, it was interesting.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Like, this is a man who's accepted many a free gift, has he not? We're just waiting for Kemi Badenoch. I'm wondering what she's going to go on. Let's find out right now. Kemi Badenoch, first question.
Mr. Speaker, can I thank the Prime Minister for his words on anti-Semitism? What happened at Bondi Beach was an atrocity. But words of solidarity are not enough. We know the evil we face. Islamic extremism is a threat to Western civilization. It abuses our democracies and subverts our institutions. It is incompatible with British values. So it is not enough just to protect Jewish communities. We must drive Islamic extremism out of this country. Mr. Speaker, I would also like to send my best wishes to our armed forces, to the emergency services and to everyone who will be working over Christmas. And I would also like to take this opportunity to wish you, Mr. Speaker, the House staff and all members of this House, including the Prime Minister, a very Merry Christmas. Mr. Speaker, it is the Prime Minister's second Christmas in Downing Street, and by his own admission, he's not in control. He says nothing happens when he pulls the levers. Does he blame himself or the Leavers?
Mr. Speaker, I'll just set out what we've achieved this week, Mr. Speaker. We're setting out our Violence Against Women and Girls strategy tomorrow. That'll me specialist support for abuse victims and the 999 calls experts.
Sorry, Prime Minister. Mr. Deputy, I expect better from you. Ex-serving officer, we expect the standards of a good officer. Prime Minister.
The next lever was 500 jobs protected at Grangemouth, partnering with INEOS to safeguard the plant's future. Next lever was Erasmus scheme, which is being announced later on today from January 2027. The next lever, Mr. Speaker, the Employment Rights Bill became law, the biggest uplift in workers' rights in a generation. I've got a whole more list, Mr. Speaker. I could go on for a very long time.
I'm not sure exactly what that had to do with the question, Mr. Speaker. The fact is, the Prime Minister promised economic growth, but the only thing that's grown is his list of broken promises. He promised to reduce unemployment, but yesterday, unemployment hit its highest level since the pandemic. It has gone up every single month since he came into office. Why is that?
Mr. Speaker, the facts are these: 350,000 people, more people in work this year. We've got the lowest inactivity rate for 5 years. We are taking a number of measures to address this, particularly with the young unemployed. I would remind them that under their watch, unemployment averaged 5.4%, higher than it is today.
You two.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know what planet the Prime Minister is living on, but unemployment has gone up every single month under him. Youth unemployment, record levels. Graduate recruitment, lowest ever. He promised that he wouldn't increase taxes on working people, but he has. Last year, he increased national insurance. Last month, he froze income tax thresholds. So will the Prime Minister finally be honest and admit he broke his promise on tax?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very proud that in the budget we had record investment into our public services. We stabilised the economy and we bore down on the cost of living. They voted against all those measures. But, Mr. Speaker, it is a season of goodwill. Let me congratulate the Leader of the Opposition. She's broken her own record since last week. Last week, 21 former Tory MPs had walked away to reform. She's broken that record because this week it's gone to 22. The former Vice Chair has now gone. So the question is, who's next? Now, it's hard to name anyone. Mr. Speaker, it's hard to name anyone because, according to the Shadow Transport Secretary, the Shadow Cabinet is full of, he says, non-entities. That's you lot. He should know.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is talking about non-entities. As he looked at his cabinet, a bunch of turkeys, they could fit right in a Burton Matthews factory. And he is one to talk. Last week, his MPs were calling him a caretaker Prime Minister. After what he's done to the economy, they should be calling him the Undertaker Prime Minister. Let's look at what else he's promised. The Prime Minister gave his word that he would help pubs. Yet they face a 15% rise in business rates because of his budget. Will the Prime Minister be honest and admit his taxes are forcing pubs to close?
Prime Minister, she knows very well that the temporary relief that was put in place during COVID has come to an end. That was the scheme they put in place. We supported it, but it was always a temporary scheme coming to an end. We've now put in place a £4 billion transitional relief. We've also taken other measures, creating hospitality zones, greater licensing freedoms and tackling late payments. We're also bearing down on the cost of living, Mr. Speaker, so more people enjoy a drink or a meal out, freezing rail fares, freezing prescription charges, £150 off energy bills, driving wages up. What did they do in relation to each of those, Mr. Speaker? They voted against each and every one of those measures.
Mr. Speaker, what pubs has he been speaking to? They've been barred from all of them. And let's look at another broken promise. I don't know why they're shaking their heads. It's not my fault they've got nowhere to drown their sorrows. Let's look at another broken promise. He promised to end the doctors' strike. He gave the doctors a 28.9% pay rise. What did he get in return? This morning, they've gone back on strike for the third time. In the middle of winter, in the middle of the worst flu crisis in years. Mr. Speaker, this shouldn't be allowed. We already banned strikes by the police and the army. Why doesn't he put patients first, show some backbone, and ban doctors' strikes?
Mr. Speaker, let me be clear about the strikes. They're dangerous and utterly irresponsible. And my message to resident doctors is don't abandon patients, work with us to improve conditions and rebuild the NHS. But, Mr. Speaker, they left the NHS absolutely on its knees, waiting lists through the roof and confidence absolutely rock bottom. And, Mr. Speaker, I take no lecture for them on industrial harmony. More days were lost to strike action on their watch than any year since the 1980s.
Mr. Speaker, of course he's not going to ban doctor strikes. He doesn't have the baubles. The trade unions didn't just buy him. They can shake their heads. They can shake their heads all they like. We all know who's running their party, and it's not him. The trade unions didn't just buy him for Christmas, they bought him for life. And this matters for all those people out there facing a difficult new year. The Prime Minister has lost control. It's not the levers that don't work, it's him. He's breaking every promise he has made. He promised to bring down unemployment, it's up. He promised he wouldn't increase taxes, they're up. He promised to end the doctor strike, they're on strike again. Mr. Speaker, he said his main mission was economic growth, but the economy is shrinking. With a year like that, is it any surprise that all his MPs want for Christmas is a new leader?
Mr. Speaker, we got the Muppets Christmas Carol here. The defections are happening so fast that at Christmas the Leader of the Opposition is going to be left home alone. And the member for Runcorn is clearly dreaming of a white Christmas. But, Mr. Speaker, we know what the Leader of the Opposition wants for Christmas. Her list to Santa is this. Dear Santa, please freeze the minimum wage. Please push hundreds of thousands of kids back into poverty and scrap maternity leave. Merry Christmas from the Tories. Mr. Speaker, what we're bringing is cheaper mortgages, new rights for workers and lifting 500,000 people out of poverty. We've achieved more in 14 months than they achieved in 14 miserable years.
Jesse, come on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Ukraine is facing...
OK, well, let's leave PMQs right now after that. Well, very feisty exchange. So, well, I say a feisty exchange. I think really only on Kemi Badenoch's part, the Tory leader, rather less so on the Prime Minister's, who seemed, I mean, frankly, lacklustre at best. Certainly, God, his reply to the last sort of digs about, you know, all his MPs want for Christmas is a new leader's Muppets Christmas and the Home Alone. I mean, it was just so contrived.
He can't deliver a joke.
He can't deliver a joke. I mean, he is a joke. He can't deliver a joke. But I mean, there's no doubt at all. If you just tuned in, Peter Cardwell, talk presenter, still with us, joining us throughout the show. I'd like to say Conservative commentator Benedict Spence as well, listening to PMQs. And I have to say, unusually, we chuckled our way through an awful lot of that, did we not? And it was very interesting. I was surprised actually early on when Kemi Badenoch seemed to be going through a whole load of different things. She was talking about different topics quite a lot, but it all came together between the beginning and the end. This is about the Prime Minister at the Liaison Committee earlier this week, answering questions from committee chairs on select committees, who said that, she said, second Christmas in a row, and he said basically, nothing happens when he pulls the levers, the frustrations of being in office. Does he blame himself or the levers, is what she asked, and she brought that through, but that was a great line.
It was. She meandered a bit, as you say, but she brought it all together. She said things like, he won't stop the junior doctors striking. He doesn't have the baubles. I mean, there were some pretty good lines there.
Trade unions didn't just buy him for Christmas; they bought him for life.
I like that one as well.
That's a good one.
Also, it seemed like a throwaway line, but I'm sure it was prepared when the front bench looked a bit grumpy, and she said, "It's not my fault they don't have somewhere to drown their sorrows because they've been banned from all these pubs."
This is interesting because the damage to hospitality that's been done by the latest attack. I mean, huge, and after being promised they'd get help, and they're actually being hit with higher taxes. And it is interesting. Yeah, lots of pubs have just said, right, Labour MP's banned, which is a great punishment.
And she's using humour in a way to actually connect with people, and for Prime Minister's Questions, which is the most watched bit of Parliament in the week, where people will actually, that will resonate with people. I think she did a very good job today. Not her best performance necessarily, but some good jokes, and he cannot deliver a line. I mean, he'd been given that line.
Which is weird for a barrister, you would think, wouldn't you? I mean, exactly, these things are often very scripted and they're thought through, and there's lots of rehearsals and the like. But Benedict Spence, I mean, what did you make of Keir Starmer's performance? I wouldn't say he was rattled. He looked kind of quite weary.
Yeah, he's just, well, to be honest, he's never been particularly talented at this sort of thing. And on the other hand, Kemi Badenoch, having started, let's say, charitably, on not the best terms, she has slowly grown into the role, become a lot more confident, and now absolutely, even when we're saying, oh, it's not her best performance, that's because she's set actually increasingly high bars.
She's got a swagger about her, hasn't she?
The problem is,
that's a recent thing.
Every single one of her barbs is landing, because there's no real comeback from Keir Starmer. You know, when she was pointing out employment has fallen every single month that you've been Prime Minister, what do you say to that? To that? It's true. The allegation is absolutely there. When you turn around, she says, all of your front benchers, they want you gone. Again, Number 10 were the ones putting out, the messages a couple of weeks ago that there are manoeuvres going on behind the scenes. People shouldn't be doing that. There's nothing really that he can knock back with. And as you say, the scripted, the tired lines that don't quite land, and they wouldn't have landed even if he was a particularly good orator.
Yeah.
It just does give the impression of somebody who is desperate for the year to just end, so he can have his, fourth, fifth reset?
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
everything will go wrong
there will
again.
be one. January is going to be so tedious.
Phase 4. Phase 4.
We'll phase 4.
I've lost track of the phases.
Phase 4 is just tumbleweed going through the desert.
The problem is whenever there is a new phase, something catastrophic happens 48 hours later, so we shouldn't actually want this at all.
Yeah, there is that. I mean, again, and also you've got that thing where Kemi Badenoch is now sort of reassuring backbenchers in terms of her performance, even if it's not reassuring voters, because it ain't showing in the polls yet. It really is not. Yeah. But again, we'll talk about the implications there, because it's a long time till the next election. But at the same time, you can see that basically the Labour backbenchers, they are deflated. There are a lot of sort of the Blairite wing, such as they still exist, certainly in government, they're there. Just a frustration at getting anything done, because of course, the Tories were both evil and incompetent, and of course, and they had the civil service working against them. I mean, you worked in government as a special advisor, Peter. You'll know this as much as anybody. There'll be good people, but actually an awful lot of inertia there. But Labour have found exactly the same issue.
Well, indeed, and they thought, we're better people, we're morally purer people, therefore the country will be better as a result. And the fact is, government is really difficult, and even when you have a huge majority, but it's also about the political will, because if Keir Starmer wanted these things to happen, he could do it. He recalled Parliament to save British Steel. He can have Parliament on Christmas Day if he wanted to.
You've also got a huge number of backbenchers who are just absolutely distraught that this is, they think, a right-wing government. They think, we thought we had the Conservatives, they were Labour-light. They think that they've got a Labour Party that is Conservative-like, because they're not really doing anything, and they want someone far to the left. I mean, it's hilarious. Every single poll of the Labour membership says, if you had another alternative leader, who would you want? And they want Ed Miliband by a long way. Angela Rayner, I would have thought would be their top choice, but maybe seen what's happening.
Well, it is the Labour Party. Within those polls as well, Keir Starmer, very unpopular, -3 favourables versus unfavourables, even amongst Labour members.
The great white hope for the Labour Party. And again, when you think what he did in terms of turning around from what happened in 2019 and Jeremy Corbyn and turning that around to that massive majority, again, how much of it was Labour and Keir Starmer, and how much of it was simply how bad were the Tories and people just having enough of it all. But here's the thing, we've got very, very unhappy sort of backbenchers. A lot of talk this week about, Andy Burnham posing a threat, being able to get a seat in a by-election either before or on the day of the 7th of May, local elections and elections in Scotland and in Wales, and therefore being in a position to challenge the Prime Minister as, the King of the North. I mean, how big a threat is that? Is he going to be there? Are they going to be taking that seriously?
There's a lot of what-ifs in that. Certainly, if he becomes the candidate, if someone steps down, Corbyn, if he wins, I'm sure Reform UK would be throwing the kitchen sink at whatever constituency he stands in, and they're set to do very, very well in those local elections and in Scotland and in the Welsh Assembly as well. So we'll see. It's also what the situation is in 6 months' time. I mean, is Andy Burnham going to be the great hope for the Labour Party, or is it going to go back to someone like Angela Rayner?
Yeah, well, that's it. And you've got to remember, by the way, this is a fascinating thing. You know, Andy Burnham stood twice to be Labour leader and lost to Ed Miliband. He was called Flip Flop Andy. You know, and then we had, of course, Ed Miliband. You know, he was leader. I still find this fascinating. Every now and then I wake up with a jolt and go, God, Ed Miliband could have been Prime Minister and could still again. And he was Labour leader. That 2015 election just let's just forget it ever happened. But the fact that Labour Party members, in the same way as like Democrats in America, the most popular candidate to be the next Democrat candidate for president in the next election is Kamala Harris. I mean, it's almost like they want to lose. But how much do you think this is weighing on how much the government does, Benedict, in terms of tying the Prime Minister's hands? Because he to get anything done, to sort anything out in this country, he's got to do some things that are going to be very unpopular with Labour backbenchers. Well, he can't risk upsetting them.
He can't risk upsetting them, but there are no alternatives. It's a desperate situation. But this is the funny thing, of course, because then when we start talking about potential leadership challenges, who else it could be? Who else is it could it be that will actually be able to do anything different? If you're Ed Miliband, you can maybe come in and you can promise one or two insane things until, the Treasury or the bond markets or somebody turns around and goes, they turn around and go, OK, that's enough, you can't do any more. So beyond that, you're still
Sorry about
between,
all our coughing. We've
still
all
between,
got lurgies.
I'm just allergic to the idea of Ed Miliband being leader. It's actually causing me physical pain. But you're then between the devil and the deep blue sea again. OK, so you do something insane on the environment. Great. Whoop-de-doo. And then how are you going to pay for it? Ooh, am I going to have to raise taxes? Am I going to have to cut spending? You'll have to make that decision eventually. And that, of course, is, I think, what's slightly holding everybody back in Labour at the moment, which is if you press the self-destruct button and you have the leadership contest and you get rid of him, well, then that person's got, again, a very finite, short period of time before everybody realises they can't change it either.
Exactly the same problems, exactly the same international issues.
And the timing is a big issue as well, because if you're leader for 3 years, that's slightly different from being leader for just 2 years with an election in sight. You can essentially say, the last guy was responsible for all the bad stuff. Here's all this magical good stuff. Vote for me again.
But it's like that whole idea that people wanted, we're going to oust Rachel Reeves before the budget. They knew there was going to be some bad stuff in the budget. And everyone wants them to take all the problems, to take all the issues.
Soak it all up.
Let's go back to what happened to Benedict at the very start of that PMQs, where Keir Starmer was doing sort of opening comments and things like Bondi Beach massacre and the like, but also talking about little words of advice to reform, that if mysterious men from the East come bearing gifts, this time report them to police. Now, this is a reference to the Welsh Party leader Nathan Gill, recently sentenced 10 years behind bars for accepting bribes, and basically he was being a traitor to his country. I'm sorry, it's disgusting behaviour. Put him behind bars, quite happy with that. I mean, to be fair, he hasn't been involved with the reform for a very long time. 4 years ago or so. Nigel Farage and Richard Tyson quite rightly, utterly disowned him. But this isn't going away. And there was in Parliament yesterday, there was an announcement that there is going to be this investigation into foreign donations, concerned particularly about Bitcoin donations, understanding that reform have been taken some Bitcoin donations. Then there is an issue in terms of foreign governments, foreign organisations and individuals trying to fund our political parties, and that is something we should all be concerned about. But it's quite clear, because it's going to report in March, just ahead of the May local elections. This is aimed at an attack on
Of course,
on
that's
reform,
exactly what this is. And the problem with that is, whilst I agree, and people will say, look, is it potentially, are there some questions that need to be answered? And I think everybody feels very uncomfortable about the idea of foreign donations coming in to British politics when you don't know where it's come from. And there have been plenty of examples of that in the past before Reform UK were ever a thing. The thing that Reform have got going for them is that if this is about it, and the government is currently overseeing everything collapsing, most people will sit there and go, yes, I don't like the idea of foreign donations and sort of opaque donations. However, let's have a look at the performance of the current government. Where does it take its money from? Who does it take its money from? Is it in fact acting in their interest? What's therefore different?
Deal Vince.
Well, this is the thing. If you decide to go down that line, then what Reform can do, and I think they are doing it, is opening up, for example, the net zero conversation. Let's talk about Dale Vince. What is it that he's getting out of this situation? I don't think you win on that.
If he is, it's very litigious, apparently.
Well, but I don't think you win long term.
He's donated over £5 million to the 5 million last year, and yet he gets gets a lot of subsidies for his.
If you decide, if you decide to go down the donations route, there is plenty to throw back at, and then you simply get back to the original issue, which is the performance of the government.
But also here's my thing. I don't want anyone, any individual, any organisation. I certainly no one from abroad should be able to donate. And I remember when Elon Musk was talking about donating to Reform, but because he has companies here in the UK. I want like a 5-10 grand limit. People say, oh, they need much more money to do campaigns. Well, an awful lot of that stuff is misinformation, disinformation. It's talking to people. I would rather we paid for it out of our taxes. I think that's cheaper for us in the long run than the damage that is done to our politics from big money getting in. And these are like Brexit campaign. If we hadn't had Leave.eu funded by Aaron Banks, do you think we'd have had Brexit? No, I don't think we would. So that's why, of course, the left don't like that. But then there was so much big money going into the Remain campaign from all the people who are benefiting from the EU. Not most of the country, by the way. And this is a problem. So you do need those sort of people thinking out of the box. Donate. It's a very difficult thing. Can I get you both, though, just before we go to a break, talk about something I broke this news a bit earlier. The Metropolitan Police Commissioner Sir Mark Rowley and the Greater Manchester Police Chief Constable Sir Stephen Watson have issued a joint statement. And basically, the summary of this is basically that protesters, as a result of the Bondi Beach attack and, obviously, 2 months on, the Heaton Park synagogue attack in Manchester, protesters chanting "Globalise the Intifada" will now be arrested because they say the context has changed. It's a very long 2-page statement, very verbose, just says Julia, of all people, pot kettle. But basically, you're going around the houses and you're reading through going, what is this actual statement? But in the wake of those terror attacks, they say they will actually be taking it in a different context, and they say that words and chants used, especially in protests, matter and have real-world consequences. We've consistently been advised by the Crown Prosecution Service that many of the phrases causing fear in Jewish communities, because globalise the Intifada means kill Jews worldwide, they say they don't meet prosecution thresholds. Now they say in the escalating threat context, we will recalibrate to be more assertive. That has got to be something that should be welcome, Peter.
Well done to them on working out what we all worked out over 2 years ago in all of this. It is shameful that people have been allowed to do that. It's shameful that people have been allowed to hold banners praising Hamas, Hezbollah, and so on. We know that there are other people who've done that as well and not faced the full force of the law. It's about time this has happened. Good for them, but thank you for catching up with the rest of us.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, thank you for getting a dictionary out. But now, Benedict, you're unhappy about this. You're concerned this is an infringement on people's freedom of speech and right to protest.
I think that this is a necessary step. I do think it's right given the context. What angers me is that an overseas ancient blood feud has been imported into this country, and now the rest of us will have to abide by new laws to accommodate for these people's barbarity.
But hold on a minute.
I am very angry that we continue to actually, we're not really grasping the nettle here. Actually,
not dealing with the root of the problem.
Islamists are not going to be put off by not being allowed to hold signs. They will continue to act. They will continue to plot. That is the root of the issue here. And I am profoundly irritated that it is at such a level across Western countries, and even now we're talking about fiddling around the speech, or in Australia, maybe tighter gun controls. That's not the issue.
It's a very fair point to say that the root of this problem is not being dealt with because it's too difficult. This sort of stuff.
It's not too difficult.
Well,
I'll deal with it. Put me in charge. I'll deal with it.
Difficult because what
it's in the too difficult box.
What this will mean is people having to go in, armed police having to go into organisations, into neighbourhoods. They will have to be very thorough about this, and it will also mean further infringements on civil liberties, because it'll probably mean having to go after people who haven't actually done anything yet. If you actually wanted to do this, that is what we are talking about, and that is what is going to have to happen, because we have invited these people into this country, and at no point have we said you will be deported if it turns out you hate Jews. That's what's happening.
Yeah, but also very, very crucially, I mean, a lot of people who'll be involved in this will be non-Islamists. They'll be the woke.
Neo-Bolsheviks.
Again, also trying to undermine our society again, and they have a right to say and speak. But again, the law should be very clear. If you incite hatred, you incite violence again. People will be worried about hurty words. No, if you're actually calling for the death of Jews worldwide, I'm pretty sure that should very easily be identifiable as a crime.
And this is not just new law. This is implementation.
Yeah, implementation. Yeah, but again, why is the CPS saying, it falls below the threshold? We've got this whole thing. What does Intifada mean? Yeah, we know what the Intifada means. Trust me, the people who are mourning their children know exactly what it means. 12:30 is the time. I'm next going to take your calls. This is Talk.
the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good afternoon, welcome back to the show. 12:33 is the time. Benedict Spencer with me. Big thanks to Benedict joining us, and indeed Peter Carboff for joining us too. Let's go to your calls quickly before we go to our next guest. David is on the line. He is in North London. David, you want to talk about the conversation we had a little bit earlier about your party councillor and your party MP Zara Sultana, who had overnight been basically camped outside a prison where some Palestine Action prisoners on remand were staging a hunger strike, concerned about their health and needing an ambulance. And the councillor was saying, well, you know, we should all be worried these people are standing up for their rights and their freedom of speech. What do you say to that?
Hi, Julia. Lovely to speak to you.
Lovely to speak to you.
So it's really interesting and also quite hypocritical of them, because they're hunger striking for a cause that they believe, they're quite deluded, but a cause that they believe in.
Yeah.
So if I were to go to prison, or you to go, someone was to go to prison for, I don't know, murder or for something serious, and you decide, well, I'll just go on a hunger strike then. Essentially what they're saying is, or the state should say, well, we'll let you out because you're hungry. I'm honest, they could then probably go stay in a migrant hotel and get well fed. But, you know, because you're hungry, you can get that out. And the other thing is, they're saying that the cause justifies this special treatment. Well, they are the same people who call, for example, for Benjamin Netanyahu to go to the International Criminal Court and things like this. Now, let's assume he did, like they want. If he goes on hunger strike, surely you just release him. So he can just...
Couldn't be on remand. But this is the thing. People shouldn't be on remand for a year for any crime of which they are accused. That is wrong. We've got a problem in the system. It's normally, people are on remand often for months. But again, some of the crimes of which people are accused and the concerns are again, not being convicted of those crimes. There's a legitimate concern from presumably from the courts. Otherwise, they wouldn't be held on bail. Held on remand rather than out on bail.
Exactly. And think about all the things that they call for people to be imprisoned for. They're not even half as serious as this. They call for people who, if you misgender someone, they believe you should essentially be sentenced to death.
Who says this?
No, I'm saying the left, the far left, let's call it. You know, the same kinds of people I think are supporting, your party, etc. If you misgender someone, you're a huge criminal. If you, do silly little things, you're a huge criminal. Obviously, one of their other big enemies is, tax evaders. Also, again, put them all in prison. But if you're alleged to have essentially broken a police officer's back with a sledgehammer and assaulted multiple people, vandalised things, etc., why would you not? And I always make the argument that they cover places in paint, they go into these weapons.
Okay, again, allegedly. Again, we need to, because there are cases
allegedly. So these people allegedly go do these things, and again, they allegedly support these things. Now, if I believe, for example, that Israel has the right to defend itself, or I believe that we should actually drill for a lot more oil, I should start a group called Just Start Oil, and I should go spray their houses in black paint.
And that would be justified.
Correct.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. It is really quite bizarre. But my main issue is that someone, let's not worry about someone being on hunger strike, being hungry and causing themselves health problems. They've chosen to do that. If they believe that strongly in it, fill your boots, if not fill your mouth. It's not my problem. I have no interest, no concern, and will not shed a single tear. As far as I'm concerned, I know this is awful. This is just Darwinian, in action. Darwin in action. It really is, because I'm sorry, but it's just a really dumb cause, if you ask me. But there we are. David, thank you for your call. Appreciate that. Kevin is in Portsmouth. Kevin, you want to talk about this massive backlog, basically a 5-month wait for anyone to get a practical driving test in this country. What do you want to say about it?
I do. It's good afternoon now, isn't it? Good afternoon, Julia.
Afternoon.
Can I very quickly just say something about remand? If you are on remand and the guilt is not proven, you're free to go. If you are found guilty, the remand time counts towards your sentence.
Yes, but if someone hasn't... but I think we should all agree that people shouldn't be held on remand for a long period before they are found innocent or guilty.
However long they're held, even if it's 5 minutes, that time is gone. It can never be reclaimed. And yet, if you've been naughty, it goes towards your sentence, which you're going to be released sometime around tea time next Thursday.
Yeah.
Right, driving test.
Yeah.
I'm a driving instructor.
Yeah.
driving tests have been running sort of 5 to 6 months now for quite a long time.
Yeah.
Now, my hypothesis is that we are bringing in 750,000 migrants quite legally, quite properly, every single year. Most of them are going to need driving licenses. Very few are coming from the European Union where they can swap the licenses out.
Oh, they're actually having to. There's that massive extra demand.
Massive extra bulge going through the snake, and the problem is, as soon as the bulge works its way down the snake, we stick another bulge in.
They have kids, and then that's the thing.
Well,
but
it's not so much that, but I mean, more come over every year because we need them, because we can't train our own people. There's the whole doctors thing, which is complete nonsense.
Yeah.
The other reason is the pass rate is not as high as it could be because students book their own tests. They're just going to have a go, see how we get on. I've had numerous people, some of whom I've refused to take the test.
Because you don't think they're ready. But I remember when my daughter did it, she had to wait months and months and months. And I said earlier, she got, the only first test she could do, she booked that test 6 months in advance, in the hope she was ready for it. And then she was ready for it, except that was the same day as a university interview. So obviously that you had to prioritise the other thing. And then you've got to try and wait and try and find another test. These things should be available within a matter of weeks, very, very quickly and easily. What is the issue that not just that we've got more people applying for them, we've got the backlog from lockdown period, but we've also got fewer instructors. We haven't got enough instructors.
We've got, according to the acting CEO, I'm afraid whose name temporarily escapes me, but she was at the Driving Instructors Association conference 2 Fridays ago, and she was saying that they've recruited several hundred new examiners, but they've lost several hundred, and the net gain was something like 46 examiners across the country.
Exactly. It's just not enough. What can we do? I've got to go because I've got to get to another call or to a guest. What was the single thing that we could do to speed this up so that people could get a driving test when they need one?
Well, one of the things you can do is to make sure more people pass, which means they've got to have proper training, and a lot of them don't have proper training. A lot of them taught by mum and dad who don't know what they're doing. They can drive. Whether they can teach it is a whole different animal.
Yeah.
I mean, I can speak English, but I would never want to become an English teacher.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So we need to make sure more people pass. As to the longer-term problem of an enormous number of people coming in every year needing tests, I mean, there's nothing we can do apart from stopping these people coming in.
Yeah. Or hire more driving instructors. I have to leave it there. Kevin, thank you so much for your call. Appreciate that. 12:40 is the time. We'll take a quick break. Up next, going to talk to the former head of the UK Border Force, Tony Smith. I'm sure he'll have some thoughts on that. But also talk about a call for an emergency census to basically account for this best part of 4 million people who've arrived in the Boris wave. This is Talk.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is Talk the Home of Common Sense. 12:43 is the time. Let's go straight to my next guest, Tony Smith. He's former head of the UK Border Force. Good afternoon to you, Tony.
Afternoon, Julia.
Thank you so much for joining us. Let me ask you, should we have an emergency census to try and find out just where everyone is and who everyone is who is in this country after the Boris wave, which we've seen, and this is such a staggering figure, 3.9 million, almost 4 million more people arriving in this country. Not sure we know where any of them are or who they are or what they're earning or if they're earning at all, but do we need a census to find out?
Well, we do need to find out somehow, Julia, because I've got no idea how many people are living in this country. I don't expect you do either.
Nope.
And that's one of the reasons why people are asking for this. I'm not sure that we've got accurate figures, either of the numbers of people here. We are getting figures of the ins and outs, which you and I talk about regularly. I'm not sure they're even accurate. No. I would certainly introduce a biometric entry-exit system at our border. That's not going to be very expensive with technology these days, so we know exactly who's coming in and who's not coming. I mean, it wouldn't catch up the illegal clandestines, but it would certainly for legal migrants, we would know exactly the numbers and how long people are staying and so on and so forth. But in the communities, when I was regional director in the UK Border Agency, I did try and set up local immigration teams or regional immigration teams, RITs, which would work within communities, within councils, within local authorities to help them to identify who is actually living on your patch, what is their immigration status, and are they entitled to be in the accommodation they're in? I'm really worried about these houses of multiple occupancies. We've got people going in there. Some of them are boat arrivals. Some of them are waifs and strays. We've got all kinds of people living within our communities. We don't know who they are, and we don't know what their status is. So I do think we need to get a grip. And I'm not sure a census, filling out a form by the household.
Funnily enough, a lot of those people might not fill out a form. I was likened to the fact that after the EU, everyone who had lived here from the EU and was entitled to stay here after Brexit, and they basically said, can you register and show proof you've lived here for 5 years? And it turns out there was 2 million more people from the EU living here than we knew. I find that extraordinary, given that so much of our, how taxes are, they're taken in and how they are spent by the government in terms of funding for local councils, for areas, whether we need more houses or rail links or spending on the healthcare in a particular, is all based on the census. How many people are there, of what age, what are their needs? Well, if that information is skewed so massively, you don't know where millions of people are, whether even if they exist in the country, that makes a nonsense of it, doesn't it?
Yeah, so the EU settlement figure, as you say, originally was predicted to be 2.5 to 3 million. I did a bit of work on that myself, and it turned out to be closer to 7 million.
Oh, it was even. I thought it was around the 5 million mark.
Yeah, it's nearer 7 now.
Who knows?
Because of, I mean, they register through a biometric enrolment system at the Home Office, so they can count the number of applications. But it was closer to 7 million than 3 million in the end. Yeah. And that's just European citizens. So we don't know really how many foreign nationals are staying here.
And they're the people who were allowed to be here and came here legally.
And they've been given, most of them have been given settlement status now, so that's fair enough. They're allowed to be here. They've got their settlement. But I don't know how many people coming from other countries have got lawful settlement, are actually living in our communities. How many overstayers?
We should know that. This seems to me to be so basic. And again, I think things I find very frustrating is when you're standing in a queue at passport control, when you come back from a late flight somewhere in Europe, back to your own country with your British passport, that you're having to stand there in queue and maybe, often ask questions. I always find, where are you from? Where are you coming from? I don't know. I've been on a flight overnight. I've got no idea where I've come from or where I'm going. I don't remember my own name. But you're queuing up and you think, surely they're using this information for something. And you think, well, how is it we don't know who's in the country and what they're doing? And especially as we know, we've got problems with migrant crime. Not you and I have talked a lot about illegal migrant crime, a massive issue. But even with migrants who are here legally, new data showing that migrants are being sanctioned for breaking benefits rules more than 200 times a day. And again, I think it's only recently a lot of people realise how many migrants are not earning and contributing, and whether they're here legally or illegally, are on benefits.
Yeah, so we need a much better integrated system across Whitehall, Julia, on all this. I mean, DWP, HMRC and the Home Office need to talk to each other and share a lot more information about this, because they don't know. I don't think they're very well trained in the DWP local offices on immigration and borders and checking status. And someone comes in and they get a benefit and you think, well, actually, who are you? I mean, and where, you're illegal, or you've got overstayer, or you've got permission. Where's your permission? I'm not sure we're doing those sorts of checks. So we need a much better cross-Whitehall integrated integrated system of identity and entitlement.
Don't Tony Blair's popping up right now on my shoulder going, digital ID cards.
Well, that's part of it, but digital ID cards, extending them to Brits is really just not going to solve the problem, is it? I mean, what we need a proper identity and verification system right across Whitehall, so we know that everybody who's in this country, if they're claiming benefits, they're in it. They've got their immigration status enables them to do that. Overstayers are not entitled to benefits.
Yeah, I would say if you're a migrant to this country, if you run out of money, off you go home. Just want to ask you very finally and briefly, Donald Trump has put in this travel ban for a number of countries, basically basket case countries where they've got a big problem with terrorism and violence, and basically said, no, you can't come to America. You're going to suspend all applications for visas and you're not coming. Tourists, work, students, no. He's now extended that travel ban and restrictions to 20 more countries. Do we need to think about doing this?
Well, the thing about Trump is that he's got such a massive, power base to operate, Julia. We've seen him do things that were unheard of a year ago. Yeah. Like things that they've done on the border, things they're doing on ICE teams in communities, deportations, and now this. Now, we can argue whether that's proportionate or not. Should you write off a complete country because there are, a section of that country are coming and causing harm? I don't know. Maybe you should, maybe you shouldn't. I mean, what I'd say about Trump, Julia, is he is delivering the sort of political leadership that is desperately needed to serve the people of America on immigration and borders. They voted him in because he promised to put America first, and blow me down, he has certainly done that. Look at their intake figures on the border. You
don't have to agree with the guy or like the guy on a lot of issues. He said he was going to do it. Americans voted for it, and he's done it. Again, I'm pretty sure we could do it if we wanted to as well. Tony Smith, great to talk to you, former head of the UK Border Force. Thank you very much indeed. Going to take a quick break. Up next, going to talk to US commentator Laurie Laird about that extension of that travel ban by Donald Trump. What does it mean, and should we do it here? This is Talk.
The Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good afternoon. This is Talk Well, the home of common sense. With me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. 12:53 is the time. Benedict Spence still with me. Let's speak right now to US commentator Laurie Laird, who joins us to talk about the story which we just touched on with Tony Smith about Donald Trump extending that overseas travel ban for foreign arrivals to the US. Very good afternoon to you, Laurie.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. Well, it's interesting because he brought in this travel ban on the 12 countries, predominantly African and Middle East countries, Afghanistan, Eritrea, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan. This was after the shooting of Home Guards outside the White House, one of whom sadly died, and basically said, look, you know, he said basically that the vetting that's going on and the security that's going on in these countries, we cannot trust that these people are safe. Anyone coming from those countries is safe. He's now expanded that travel ban to include more countries. The 20 in total since then: Angola, Nigeria, Senegal, Tonga, South Sudan, Mali, Syria, and others all added. And I mean, basically, let's be honest. Let's go. A lot of the basket case countries of the world, he's saying no one is going to be able to come into the US at all. Work, study, holiday, that's it. What do you make of this move by him?
Well, you're right. These are certainly some of the poorest countries in the world. And I don't think this will be the sort of thing that loses Donald Trump any votes. I think this will be generally popular, not just amongst his base, but amongst other voters as well. America has become a little bit less open toward immigration, but it does strike me, the timing of this announcement strikes me as a little bit interesting because, you know, we're seeing Donald Trump for the first time in so many years start to lose touch with his base a little bit. Certainly that post after Rob Reiner's death did him no favors. But I think even more concerning for Trump with popularity is the fact that he's denying that people are experiencing a cost of living crisis, and sort of gaslighting your voters probably isn't going to work. If Americans feel that they're paying more
Laurie, your
basic items, and food price inflation is pretty high. We'll get another set of data tomorrow.
Laurie, sorry, yeah, sorry, you were talking about the cost of living. The line cut out a little bit then. Obviously, there are, as in everywhere around the Western world, everywhere, cost of living is a massive, massive issue. But we know that immigration is an issue and crime is an issue. And they are, all three of those stories are actually very closely linked. But in terms of the impact, again, a country that's sort of, you know, built on immigration in America, very different from Britain, which is not built on immigration at all. It's a very different thing. But again, it's been built on, let's face it, largely Western immigration rather than from some of these war-torn countries with massive issues of corruption and violence and civil strife. And again, a lot of people are saying he's kind of, you know, he's playing the odds, the risks from certain countries, the chances that people are going to be net contributors, the chances they're going to commit crime. Not everybody, of course not. But why play the odds when the odds are not looking good for people from those countries? A lot of other countries around the world, a lot of other citizens will be saying, yeah, why don't we have that here? I'm looking down some of the countries on that list and I'm thinking, yeah, why are we accepting people from those countries in this country?
Well, my reason for bringing up the cost of living is that, and I'm wondering if this announcement, which doesn't take the earlier ban all that much further, whether this is a way to get back on one of the talking points that has served Trump so very well. It distracts from some of the missteps that I think that he has made recently. So the timing of this announcement does strike me as somewhat peculiar, somewhat interesting. But, you know, I think the U.S., this will be popular in the short term. Without a doubt, it will not harm Trump at all. But my concern would be going forward. There is a great body of evidence that shows that immigrants from a wide range of countries, maybe not so much from Sierra Leone, but certainly from the Indian subcontinent, from South Asia, have been instrumental in innovation in the U.S., in setting up high-tech companies of the sort that Donald Trump is very proud of right now. And I would have concerns over the medium to longer term
often
that if America is seen as unfriendly to immigrants, that talent will go elsewhere. Will it come to the UK?
Yeah, but again, you're talking about different countries, Laurie. That's the thing. Different countries. We see the same in the UK. The economic contribution and the crime levels from different countries is astronomically different from neighbouring countries, depending on what's happening back at home. So you're looking at India and you're looking at China, or you're looking at Malaysia or South Korea. You're looking at a completely different group of demographic, aren't you? That's the thing.
I'm not aware of any crime numbers in the U.S. that break down crime by ethnicity.
Well, no, by nationality.
Or nationality. I'm not aware of any data like that exists.
Oh, well, you see, we've been getting that in the UK now, only recently, and across Europe, and that has been something of an eye-opener for a lot of people.
But I can tell you in the US that there is a great body of evidence that shows that immigrants are much less likely to commit a crime, to be incarcerated, than the native-born population.
That's very interesting.
Some of the biggest companies have at least one immigrant founder. That's not to say that Americans...
Yeah, but again, I come back to, if you actually look at which countries they are from, I'm guessing very few of them will be from the countries that he's now put on that list. I think you'll find if you double check. Laurie Laird, I'm going to have to leave it there. US commentator Laurie Laird, apologies for quality of that line. Just a very quick word from Benedict Spencer on this, because the thing is, I mean, again, not damning everybody the same, but you're playing the odds when you're dealing with immigration, and we're allowed to be picky and choosy, aren't we?
Yeah, you should be picky and choosy. That's the point of having an immigration system. That your country is not just an open market for everybody. I think it's a good point that you raised that actually there are some countries that disproportionately
We'll take those, please.
And they can disproportionately contribute to startups and hard-working